California glitters with shopping malls, neon-lit boutiques, and bustling department stores. But behind the polished displays and inviting storefronts lies a darker truth. Some stores are not just places to shop, they are portals to something far more sinister. Shoppers have walked in, only to never walk out again. Employees whisper about rooms that should not exist, footsteps that echo when the lights go out, and figures that move through the aisles long after closing time. This is not about ordinary hauntings. These are stories of places where retail meets the restless dead, where vanished customers seem to linger as shadows trapped among mannequins and merchandise. Tonight, we will descend into the terrifying legends of California's most haunted stores. 25 sites where people shopped for bargains and found themselves swallowed by darkness. From abandoned malls in Los Angeles to quiet antique shops in the rural valleys, every location carries stories of vanishing shoppers, phantom clerks, and strange energy that makes the air heavy with dread. Some tales come from employees who quit after just one night. Others come from investigators who captured bone-chilling evidence, unexplained voices, screams on tape, and shadow figures lurking behind racks of clothing. And then there are the stories that remain unsolved, disappearances never explained. People gone without a trace, last seen under flickering fluorescent lights. So turn off the lights, grab your courage, and let's walk together into the aisles of the unknown. Here are 25 of the most terrifying haunted retail stores in California, places where shoppers vanished. The Northridge Mall in Salinas, California, appears at first glance like any other suburban shopping center. Families crowd the food court, teenagers wander in groups between stores, and during the holidays the entire place glows with festive lights. But if you ask security guards who have worked there for years, or the night crews who clean the empty halls, they will tell you that something sinister lurks beneath the surface of its cheery atmosphere. For decades, whispers have circulated of shoppers who walk into certain hallways or corridors only to never be seen again. Their loved ones raise the alarm, claiming they vanished inside the mall itself. But management insists such things are impossible. The strange part is that surveillance cameras often confirm what witnesses describe: individuals enter a hallway, but there is never any footage of them leaving. They simply dissolve into the shadows, as if the mall swallowed them whole. One of the earliest reports came from the late 1980s, when a teenage girl was said to have walked into a service corridor near the north wing of the mall. Her friends waited outside, expecting her to return quickly, but she never did. Security checked the cameras and saw her enter, but no recording showed her exit. At first, police assumed she had simply slipped away or left through an emergency door. Yet a sweep of the area revealed no trace. She was reported missing, and her case remains unsolved to this day. Since then, similar incidents have been quietly noted by security staff, though most are brushed aside as misunderstandings or runaway cases. Those who work overnight claim the mall feels entirely different when the last customer leaves. The escalators and fountains fall silent, the air grows heavy, and the shadows in the corners seem to stretch unnaturally long. Janitors have reported seeing doors that appear where none existed before, metal doors with no handles that open slowly to reveal pitch-black corridors. When approached, the hallways emit a draft colder than ice, carrying with it the faint sound of crying or whispering voices. Within seconds, the door vanishes again, leaving only a blank wall. Others describe mannequins turning their heads as if to watch them, their plastic eyes gleaming in the dim light, or hearing footsteps echoing from the closed upper level of a department store long after it has been locked for the night. One theory suggests the mall is cursed because it was built on farmland where tragedies occurred long ago. Salinas has a long history of ranching and agriculture, and locals say that before the mall was constructed, the land was used as a homestead where a fire claimed the lives of a family in the late 19th century. Their bodies were never recovered, and some believe their spirits linger, seeking vengeance on anyone who walks over their graves. Another story connects the disappearances to Prohibition-era tunnels rumored to snake beneath the city. These underground routes were once used to smuggle alcohol and contraband, and some insist the mall's foundation accidentally tapped into this forgotten network. If so, the passages may lead somewhere far darker than history books ever recorded. Security guards have their own collection of chilling accounts. One veteran claims that while monitoring the North Wing cameras, he watched a man in a red jacket walk down the hallway toward a maintenance door. Seconds later, the feed glitched, and when it cleared, the man was gone. The hallway was completely empty. Alarmed, the guard went to investigate in person. He swears he found the man's shopping bags neatly placed on the floor, but no sign of the man himself. Another guard recalled finding a woman in the food court crying uncontrollably. She said her husband had been walking right beside her before slipping around a corner toward a restroom, only to vanish completely. Mall staff checked every restroom and emergency exit in the area, but he was never found. Those who encountered these phenomena often describe a chilling physical sensation. Victims who nearly vanish or companions of those who report a sudden blast of cold air, strong enough to make their breath visible, even in the warmth of summer. Others speak of a crushing silence that descends just before a disappearance. The background hum of the mall fading into nothingness, as though the world itself is holding its breath. One woman recalled hearing her name whispered from behind a locked service door. When she stepped closer, she swore she felt fingers brush against her hand through the crack, though no one could have been inside. The north wing of the mall, in particular, has become notorious. Shoppers frequently complain of unease in its corridors. Some describe seeing shadowy figures drift along the walls, as though the architecture itself is alive with restless souls. At times, these shapes appear to break away from the shadows, darting into stores, before vanishing again. Employees who close up shops in that wing speak of mannequins shifting slightly when no one is near them, their heads tilting as if following the workers' movements. One janitor claims he left a pile of mannequins neatly arranged for disposal, only to return minutes later and find them standing in a circle in the middle of the hallway, facing inward as if performing some silent ritual. Despite the accumulation of disturbing stories, management has always dismissed the rumors. Official statements insist that missing shoppers must have simply left unnoticed or were later found safe elsewhere. Yet many locals believe the truth is much darker, that the mall itself hides a portal, a thin place where the boundary between our world and another is dangerously fragile. Perhaps those who vanish are pulled into this other realm, trapped forever in a shadow version of the mall, wandering endless black corridors with no exit. The Tower Record Store on Sunset Boulevard in Los Angeles was once the beating heart of music culture. For decades, it drew crowds of fans, celebrities, and curious tourists, all eager to immerse themselves in a place that felt like the very center of the music universe. The walls seemed to vibrate with energy, plastered with posters of upcoming concerts and lined with shelves stacked high with vinyl, cassettes, and CDs. This was where legends would show up unannounced, where lines wrapped around the block for new album releases, and where the joy of discovery turned ordinary shoppers into lifelong fans. Yet, as with many places tied to so much passion, fame, and tragedy, the building carries with it a darker legacy. Even after the doors officially closed, strange occurrences have continued, and whispers of ghostly presences, persist echoes of voices, phantom guitars, and customers who vanish as if swallowed by the music itself. Former employees, especially those who worked late into the night, often spoke of eerie sounds coming from the far corners of the store. More than one stock clerk swore they heard the unmistakable strum of a guitar, reverberating from the storage rooms long after the instruments had been packed away. Others described the distant pound of drums, keeping a steady beat in rooms that were empty, or a chorus of voices rising in song, drifting down the aisles, though not a soul stood nearby. At first, many assumed the sounds were echoes from the street outside, given Sunset Boulevard's constant hum of nightlife. But when they investigated, they would find silence outside and the noise continuing within. It was as though the very building had trapped decades of performances, playing them back to an audience of the dead. Customers, too, began to notice that something was not right. While browsing, some described feeling a sudden change in the air, as if they had stepped into another atmosphere entirely. A chill would sweep through, even on the hottest summer afternoons, raising goosebumps across their arms. Then came reports of something more unsettling: people who entered the store but never left. The most infamous case involves a woman last seen flipping through a row of vinyl records. She had parked her car outside, her purse and phone left behind, suggesting she intended only a brief visit. Witnesses said they saw her browsing one moment, and the next, she was gone. No one saw her leave. One customer claimed that, just before her disappearance, a cold gust of wind whipped through the aisle, strong enough to send album covers fluttering, clearing a path for something unseen. Despite thorough searches, the woman was never found. Her vehicle remained abandoned in the parking lot, a silent reminder of a mystery that has never been solved. Paranormal investigators have since turned their attention to the former Tower Records building, curious about the many stories tied to its history. Recordings made inside during overnight sessions picked up faint strains of music, even though the store was empty and silent. One team claimed to capture the sound of a man singing a song that had never been released commercially, his voice distorted and mournful. Others reported flashes of movement caught on camera, dark silhouettes darting between the aisles where customers once crowded. Cold spots were frequently documented, lingering in the same corners where disappearances were said to have occurred. Theories about the haunting are varied. Some believe that the store is cursed, bound forever to the restless spirits of musicians who died young. Tower Records was a shrine of sorts, a place where their albums were sold, their faces plastered across posters, their voices immortalized in plastic grooves. For artists who left the world too soon, perhaps this store became a liminal space, a crossroads between their earthly fame and the afterlife. Names like Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, Jim Morrison, and Kurt Cobain are often whispered when people speculate about the ghosts said to linger there. It is as if their unfinished songs and lost futures still echo within those walls. Others argue the explanation is more sinister. Some locals believe the land beneath Tower Records carries a curse of its own. Sunset Boulevard has a long and complicated history, rife with stories of violence, addiction, and tragedy. The boulevard was both a place of dreams and a graveyard for those crushed by fame's relentless weight. They say the building stands on a spiritual fault line, where tragedy bleeds through into the present. Whatever energy has soaked into the foundation may have created a rift, a kind of gateway where the living and the dead can momentarily overlap, with some unfortunate souls pulled across permanently. Employees who once loved working in the store describe an unsettling mix of nostalgia and dread when recalling their shifts. One clerk admitted that after hearing phantom footsteps circling the aisles, they refused to close the store alone. Another confessed that while pricing records, they saw a shadow pass over them, but when they looked up, the aisle was empty. Several staff reported mannequins or cardboard cutouts of musicians shifting slightly when no one was near, their paper faces grinning with a strange, mocking awareness. Even today, long after the Tower Records chain fell into decline, the Sunset Boulevard location continues to draw attention. Musicians and fans still visit, leaving flowers and mementos in memory of the store's glory days. Yet more than one visitor has walked away shaken, swearing they heard faint guitar chords drifting from the empty building, or felt a sudden pressure against their back, as though unseen hands were guiding or pushing them away. At night, passers-by sometimes claim to see figures moving inside the darkened windows, silhouettes browsing invisible racks of albums, still searching for songs that may never exist. Whether it is the spirits of musicians gone too soon, the lingering energy of decades of passion and heartbreak, or something darker tied to the land itself, Tower Records on Sunset Boulevard refuses to be silent. Its walls hold more than memories of music. They hold mysteries that even time has not erased. For those who step inside, whether in the height of its past glory or in the quiet of its present, one truth seems undeniable. Some songs never stop playing, and some ghosts never stop haunting. The Macy's in San Francisco's Union Square stands as a glittering centerpiece of the city's shopping district. Its windows gleam during the holidays, Its escalators hum with constant movement, and its many levels create a labyrinth of stores and passageways. To the thousands of visitors who walk through its doors each day, it seems like nothing more than a retail paradise. Yet behind the lights and polished floors, there is another story, a darker one, that employees and longtime locals whisper about. They say the Grand Store is haunted, a place where the past still clings tightly, and where some shoppers who enter may never return. Among the most unsettling stories are those of the fitting rooms. Staff members claim they have watched customers step into a fitting room with an armful of clothes, only for the room to remain empty when checked later. In some cases, the clothing they carried is neatly folded on the bench, as though they had simply vanished into thin air. What makes these stories even more chilling is that security footage confirms the disappearances. Guards have watched shoppers walk into the fitting room corridor, but no recording ever shows them leaving. When reports are raised, management dismisses the incidents as misunderstandings or errors in the footage. But employees who have worked there long enough know that something stranger is at play. The elevators are another source of unease. Patrons often press the button, expecting to be taken to the next floor of bustling shoppers, only for the doors to slide open onto something entirely different. They reveal long, dark hallways that don't appear on any store map, corridors filled with shadows, flickering lights, and a faint but undeniable scent of smoke. Some visitors, unnerved, step back and let the doors close immediately. Others who have dared to step forward have reported disorientation, as though the hallways stretch endlessly into the dark. A few claim to have seen ghostly figures waiting at the end of those passages, their outlines blurred by smoke. The connection to the store's history is difficult to ignore. In 1906, the catastrophic earthquake and fire devastated much of San Francisco, destroying countless buildings on the Union Square site. Locals believe that when Macy's was constructed decades later, it was built directly over those ruins. The elevators, it seems, sometimes still open to the ghostly remnants of those earlier layers. The scorched past, bleeding through into the present. Employees working the night shift describe the building as eerily alive once the customers leave. Cold drafts rush suddenly through perfume counters, scattering fragrance testers across the floor. The mannequins, immobile by day, are said to change position when no one is watching. One visual merchandiser swore she arranged a group of mannequins in a neat row before heading home, only to return in the morning and find them turned toward one another, as if frozen mid-conversation. Others claim mannequins sometimes face the mirrors after hours, their reflections staring back at empty space. Perhaps the most frightening presence in the store is the so-called woman in black. She has been reported gliding silently past escalators, her figure tall and draped in a dark gown from another century. Unlike the mannequins or cold drafts, her appearances are often corroborated by multiple witnesses at once. Some see her directly, while others catch her reflection in the gleaming mirrors of the cosmetics section or in the glass walls near the elevators. When they turn to look, she is gone. Staff whisper that she may be a victim of the 1906 fire, a woman trapped forever in the space where life ended violently and unexpectedly. Security guards, who spend long hours patrolling the building after closing, collect their own catalog of unsettling experiences. One described hearing footsteps echoing on an upper floor, only to find it deserted. Another said he heard someone whisper his name just as he checked the darkened elevator bay, though no one was there. Perhaps most disturbing are the reports of shoppers who vanish without explanation. In rare cases, companions, waiting outside a fitting room or near an elevator, insist that their friend or family member entered only moments before, but never emerged. Store-wide searches turn up nothing, and management insists they must have quietly left. Yet their belongings, purses, coats, even shopping bags are often discovered abandoned inside. Some investigators suggest that the store is layered over a thin place, where the barrier between times and realities wears dangerously thin. Those who vanish may be pulled into an older version of the building, trapped within the ruins of 1906, wandering smoke-filled corridors from which there is no return. Others argue that the tragedies of the past imprinted themselves into the very foundation of Macy's, replaying endlessly in echoes that overlap with the present. Whatever the explanation, there is no denying that the disappearances and spectral encounters align all too neatly with the building's haunted reputation. Customers who encounter the strange phenomena rarely forget it. A woman once described trying on a coat in a fitting room when the mirror before her seemed to ripple like water. She caught sight of another face in the reflection, pale and soot-streaked, standing just over her shoulder. When she spun around, she was alone. Another shopper reported stepping off the elevator into what she thought was a dimly lit storage level. The floor was filled with smoke and the faint sound of people screaming. Terrified, she rushed back into the elevator. When the doors reopened, she was back on the bustling main floor, shoppers moving as if nothing had happened. Today, Macy's Union Square continues to thrive as a landmark destination. Tourists admire its grand displays, and locals flock to its seasonal sales. But for those who know its secrets, there is an unshakable sense that something lingers just beneath the surface. The fitting rooms, elevators, perfume counters, and mirrored walls all seem to hold hidden doors into another time, a darker, tragic era when flames consumed the city and lives were lost. Employees warn newcomers never to linger too long after closing, never to ride the elevators alone at night, and never to ignore a sudden chill that sweeps past the perfume counters. Because in Macy's Union Square, the past is not gone. It waits patiently in the shadows, and sometimes it reaches out to claim the living. The Ross Dress for Less in Fresno looks unremarkable to anyone passing by. Its bright signs, endless racks of discounted clothing, and steady flow of bargain-hunting customers make it appear like any other retail chain. Yet those who work inside tell a very different story. Behind its fluorescent lights and cheery sales banners lies a reputation for unexplained phenomena, unsettling encounters, and even whispers of shoppers who vanish without a trace. Employees and paranormal investigators alike insist that this particular Ross hides something sinister in its walls, something tied to a history no one seems able or willing to fully explain. Nighttime is when the store feels the most dangerous. Workers tasked with restocking shelves after hours often complain of being followed. They hear the steady squeak of shopping carts rolling across the polished floor, even when every cart is stacked neatly in the front. When they turn to look, the aisles are empty. Footsteps echo just behind them, sometimes so close they feel warm breath at the back of their necks, only to find no one there. Several employees have reported the sensation of their shirts being tugged, or sleeves being yanked, as though unseen hands were trying to drag them in another direction. One stock clerk admitted quitting after a shift where she repeatedly felt a strong pull at her arm, each time growing harder until she ran out of the store in tears. The most disturbing stories, however, center on the fitting rooms. Shoppers sometimes enter, close the door, and are never seen again. Co-workers or companions waiting outside grow impatient, knock repeatedly, then alert staff, only for employees to discover the rooms empty. Security footage shows the customers entering but provides no evidence of them leaving. In some cases, doors have been found locked from the inside, even when no one is there. On other occasions, mirrors are left fogged over, as though someone had leaned against a glass, breathing heavily, in fear or, worse, in anguish. One cashier recounted a chilling night when she was tasked with checking the fitting rooms before closing. She found several doors locked, each without any visible occupants. When maintenance forced the doors open, the rooms were empty but icy cold. The mirrors were covered in condensation, as though multiple people had been standing close, exhaling in unison. She swears she could see faint handprints fading on the glass, pressed from the inside out. Paranormal investigators have taken an interest in the Fresno Ross, especially after employees began to share their stories more openly. One group spent an entire night inside, setting up cameras and audio recorders. Almost immediately, they reported a heavy, oppressive feeling in the fitting room area, like a crushing weight on their chests. Several members experienced shortness of breath, forcing them to step outside for air. When they later reviewed their recordings, they captured strange, distorted voices. One phrase, repeated several times in a guttural tone, "Don't look." Another sounded like frantic whispering, impossible to identify but undeniably human. Not all phenomena are confined to the fitting rooms. Customers shopping in broad daylight have complained of clothing racks shaking violently when no one is near them. Others report a sudden, icy wind sweeping through the aisles, scattering price tags and hangers across the floor. Mirrors throughout the store are notorious for reflecting figures that belong tall silhouettes that linger just out of sight, or pale faces peering over shoppers' shoulders before vanishing when they turn. One particularly terrifying account comes from an assistant manager who stayed late to finish paperwork. Around 2 a.m., she heard the familiar squeak of a cart rolling near the shoe section. Assuming another employee was still working, she went to check. What she found froze her in place. A cart was indeed rolling, but on its own, moving steadily down the aisle, without anyone pushing it. It came to a stop directly in front of her, one wheel spinning slightly as though recently in motion. The manager fled the building, refusing to lock up that night. The origins of the haunting remain murky. Ross corporate records show little about the property before the store opened, but locals whisper about the land's grim past. Some believe the building was erected over an unmarked burial site, possibly connected to the area's history of migrant farm laborers in the early 20th century. Others point to Fresno's darker folklore, which includes stories of forgotten cemeteries relocated without care, their graves disturbed to make room for modern development. If true, the restless dead may be reaching out from beneath, manifesting their anger and sorrow in the aisles of a discount store. Those who encounter the phenomena firsthand often leave with lasting fear. Former employees describe recurring nightmares of endless fitting rooms, each mirror fogged over, each door locked from the inside. Shoppers who have experienced sudden cold drafts or seen figures in mirrors claim they avoid the store altogether, even if it means paying more at other retailers. A few brave souls return only to confirm their suspicions. The strange sensations and ghostly activity are not one-time accidents, but recurring events. Despite the stories, Ross Dress for Less in Fresno continues to operate, its doors open daily to customers unaware of what might lurk inside. Bargain hunters sift through racks of clothing, largely oblivious to the whispers of employees who have seen too much. Yet those who know the truth move quickly past the fitting rooms, avoid the mirrors, and keep a wary ear tuned for the sound of a cart squeaking across an empty aisle. Because in this store, the line between the living and the dead seems dangerously thin, and sometimes that line disappears altogether. The Hollywood Target rises like a beacon along one of the busiest stretches of the city, its bright red bullseye promising convenience and bargains to locals and tourists alike. To most, it is simply another megastore, packed with clothing, electronics, groceries, and endless rows of home goods. Yet for those who work behind its walls, and for some unlucky customers who've experienced its darker side, the store is far from ordinary. Beneath the fluorescent lights and cheerful red branding lies a reputation for strange happenings, unexplained illnesses, and even the occasional disappearance that has left both employees and security guards deeply unsettled. It is after hours when the building truly reveals its secrets. Security guards tasked with patrolling the cavernous space at night often report ghostly figures drifting down the aisles. These shapes are not fleeting tricks of the aisles. These shapes are not fleeting tricks of the eye. They appear clearly enough to be mistaken for living people until the guards approach and the figures vanish into thin air. One guard described watching a woman in a long coat push a cart across the frozen foods section. The wheel squeaked audibly on the tile. When he turned the corner to confront her, the cart was gone, the aisle empty, and the air unbearably cold. Another swore he saw children running through the toy section, their laughter echoing, only to discover no children had been inside the building for hours. The toy section has developed a particularly sinister reputation. Customers often complain of sudden headaches, nausea, or dizziness when browsing the shelves. Employees themselves report feeling faint or disoriented, sometimes so badly that they abandon the section altogether. Temperature fluctuations are extreme, with pockets of icy cold air that hang between rows of dolls and board games. One shopper recounted feeling her breath fog in front of her face, even though the rest of the store was warm. She hurried out, unnerved, and later developed a splitting migraine that lingered for days. Paranormal researchers suggest the section may sit on a focal point of energy, what some call a cold spot, where whatever haunts the store manifests most strongly. But the most terrifying tales involve people who enter the store and never come back out. One case stands out above all the others. A man shopping for home goods was last seen on security cameras walking into an aisle near the back of the store. Moments later, the footage glitched, skipping forward several minutes. When it resumed, the man was gone. He was never seen again. Police investigated thoroughly, but found no trace of him inside the store, in the parking lot, or anywhere nearby. His car remained in the lot. His personal belongings were never recovered. To this day, the footage remains unexplained. Its missing frames a chilling gap that seems to hide more than a technical malfunction. Employees whisper about a particular back room. That seems to be the heart of the haunting. The room is used for storage and inventory, but many workers dread going inside. Those who enter describe the air as unnaturally heavy, as if each breath requires effort. The lights often flicker overhead, and a deep, resonant hum vibrates through the floor, rattling the shelves and sending waves of dread through anyone inside. A few employees claim they've lost time. They're walking in, performing a simple task, then stumbling out hours later with no memory of what happened. Their supervisors, confused, note the gaps in their work schedules, but receive no real explanation. One worker described the sensation of the walls closing in on him, as if the room itself were alive and pressing against him. He nearly collapsed before managing to stagger out into the main store. Another told of seeing shadowy figures standing against the back wall, unmoving, their outlines indistinct yet unmistakably human, pulsing like a heartbeat deep within the foundation of the building. Some speculate that the target was built on cursed ground, part of the old Hollywood lots where accidents and tragedies once occurred. The city's history is rife with stories of lives lost to fire, violence, or despair. And some believe the store's construction disturbed something better left buried. Others point to the strange design of the building itself, with its maze-like stockrooms and unusually long hallways, as though it was deliberately built to confuse and disorient. A few even whisper that the back room is not part of the store at all, but something else, entirely, pocket of space that doesn't belong to our world, swallowing those unlucky enough to wander too far inside. For customers, the hauntings are fleeting, an uneasy feeling in the toy section, a sudden chill in the aisles, or the unsettling sense of being watched. But for employees and security guards who spend long nights within its walls, the experiences are far more vivid. Some have quit abruptly, others stay but carry with them a quiet fear, avoiding the back room whenever possible, and steering clear of the toy section unless absolutely necessary. The Hollywood Target remains a bustling, busy place by day, with shoppers rushing to fill their carts and families hunting for deals. But beneath its surface, those who know the stories can't ignore the truth. There are too many unexplained encounters, too many vanishing points where people simply dissolve into nothingness, and too many voices whispering from the shadows. The toy section chills, the back room hums with something unnatural, and the cameras occasionally capture things that should not exist. For most, Target is a place of errands and convenience. But in Hollywood, under the glare of bright lights and red signs, it has become something else entirely, a place where time fractures, where people slip away, and where something unseen moves endlessly through the aisles. Those who disappear are never found, and those who return from the back room bring with them the look of someone who has glimpsed a place beyond explanation, a place where they were never meant to go. The Old Navy in San Francisco may look like any other retail store to passing shoppers, but those who work within its walls know that something far stranger lurks there. The building sits in one of the oldest sections of the city, where history presses close and the past bleeds through the modern. Long before Old Navy moved in, the site had a reputation for strange occurrences. Beneath the streets, stories tell of hidden tunnels carved during the gold rush era, running under shops, bars, and hotels. These underground pathways were said to have been used for smuggling goods, trafficking workers, and even concealing bodies during outbreaks of disease. Though the entrances were sealed long ago, locals whisper that not all of them stayed closed. Some claim that faint drafts and hollow echoes in the basement suggest those tunnels are still waiting, accessible through forgotten doors or thin walls. The dressing rooms are where the stories turn darkest. Several shoppers over the years have reportedly entered, closed the door behind them, and simply never emerged. Employees tell of entering to clean up at night and finding a locked stall. Assuming someone is inside, they knock, but no answer comes. When they finally manage to force the door open, the stall is empty yet the mirror across from it is fogged, smeared as though someone had been breathing heavily against the glass only moments before. On a few occasions, shoes or shopping bags belonging to those who vanished have been found, left behind, but no trace of the people themselves. It is as though the dressing rooms are not rooms at all, but portals leading elsewhere. Security cameras in the store do little to calm nerves. In footage pulled from late-night shifts, employees say the monitors sometimes show movement in the dressing rooms after closing. Shadows flicker beneath the doors, or faint outlines of figures can be seen pacing inside. But when guards check in person, there is nothing. Even stranger, the timestamp on the recordings often skips or glitches, as if the camera itself is unable to capture what is truly happening. One guard quit on the spot after reviewing footage that appeared to show a woman stepping into a fitting room and never stepping out again, her reflection lingering in the mirror long after her body was gone. The footsteps are another mystery. Workers stocking shelves late at night, long after the last customers have gone, often hear someone pacing just a few feet behind them. They turn, and no one is there. The sound continues, sometimes speeding up, sometimes slowing to a deliberate crawl, as though the unseen figure is deliberately trying to unnerve them. Some describe the noise as boots scraping against a tile, others as the soft shuffle of bare feet. One employee recalled hearing the sound circle her in an empty aisle, each step coming closer until she felt a rush of cold air at her neck, forcing her to drop the clothes she was folding and flee. Not every strange event takes place in the dressing rooms or aisles. The basement storage areas are considered the most unsettling part of the building. Workers report a pressure in the air down there, heavy and suffocating, like the atmosphere before a thunderstorm. Some refuse to enter alone, saying the shadows move in ways that don't make sense, stretching across walls or bending against the light. More than one person has claimed to hear faint voices coming from the corners of the basement, whispering words they cannot understand. The voices rise and fall, like a conversation happening just out of reach. When they bring flashlights to search, nothing is found yet. The feeling of being watched never goes away. Shoppers, too, have felt the strangeness. A woman browsing the racks reported that every time she looked up, she saw the same figure, a tall man in outdated clothing, standing just at the edge of her vision. No matter which aisle she turned into, there he was, waiting silently. When she finally spun around to confront him, he was gone. But in his place, she found a price tag lying on the floor, written in handwriting rather than printed text. Employees say she dropped her purchases and left in tears, vowing never to return. Some researchers who have investigated the site believe that the hauntings are tied to the history of the land itself. Before the gold rush, this area was a burial ground for early settlers and, in some cases, those who died without family to claim them. As the city grew, graves were moved, or, at least, most of them were. Many headstones vanished, and bodies were often left behind, paved over, as San Francisco expanded. The tunnels dug later only added to the disquiet, weaving through ground already disturbed. Whether the spirits are those of lost settlers, forgotten miners, or something else entirely, their presence is undeniable to those who work there. One of the most unsettling tales involves the mirrors throughout the store. Employees claim that sometimes, when passing by, Their reflections linger, a fraction of a second too long, or move in ways their bodies did not. Some even say the glass shows figures standing beside them, figures not visible in the store itself. In the dressing rooms especially, mirrors seem alive. People have described feeling an irresistible pull, as if the glass itself is trying to draw them in. After a few disappearances, rumors began to spread that the mirrors were linked to the tunnels, offering glimpses into the spaces beneath the city and swallowing those unfortunate enough to stand too close. To this day, the Old Navy in San Francisco continues to operate, its racks and registers busy with customers who have no idea of the shadows lingering just beyond their sight. But ask the employees, especially those who have worked the late shifts, and they will tell you in hushed tones. This is no ordinary store. The dressing rooms are traps, the footsteps warnings, and the mirrors well. The mirrors are something best avoided, for in this store, the past has not been buried. It walks the aisles, waits in the glass, and whispers in the dark, hungry for those who stray too far. The Macy's in downtown Los Angeles stands as a towering symbol of commerce, fashion, and history. Its vast floors and endless displays attract thousands of shoppers each week. But beneath the bright lights and retail energy lies a story that employees and customers whisper about with unease. This department store has a reputation that goes far beyond its seasonal sales. For decades, tales of strange sounds, inexplicable disappearances, and eerie presences have given the building a chilling reputation as one of the most haunted stores in Los Angeles. The most enduring and unsettling story dates back to the 1970s. According to local legend, a family of 4 entered Macy's on a busy weekend afternoon, intending to shop for back-to-school clothing. They were seen browsing, trying on shoes, and waiting in line at the register. But when the father went to purchase the clothing, he suddenly realized his wife and children had vanished. At first, it was assumed they had simply wandered off to another section. Security was called, and the building was swept from top to bottom. Not a single trace of the family was ever found. No surveillance footage captured them leaving the store. Witnesses swore they had seen the children moments before near the escalators, yet when searched, the upper floors were empty. The family never reappeared, and their case remains unsolved to this day. Ever since that day, employees report that the escalators have never felt the same. Long after closing hours, faint ghostly laughter of children echoes through the silent store. Some security guards claim they've seen small shapes darting between floors on the escalators, vanishing before reaching the top or bottom. One janitor swore he saw a young boy staring at him from the moving steps, pale and silent, before disappearing in the blink of an eye. The escalators, once a symbol of modern convenience, have become a focal point of unease. Entire floors of the store are now avoided by staff unless absolutely necessary. One of the upper levels, no longer open to the public, is especially feared. Workers describe a thick, oppressive silence there, broken only by phantom footsteps that follow them through empty aisles. On several occasions, employees have found children's clothing scattered neatly across the floor in the abandoned sections, even though the area hadn't been stocked in years. When picked up, the garments feel inexplicably damp, as though submerged in water, though there's no leak or damage in the building. Surveillance cameras have also recorded strange anomalies. Footage shows mannequins subtly shifting position, sometimes changing direction entirely between frames. In one infamous recording, a mannequin appeared to raise its arm on its own. Employees who reviewed the tape insist there was no one near it at the time. Others have claimed mannequins will suddenly topple when no one is nearby, falling with the sound of crashing glass. Though no glass is broken, customers do have reported unnerving experiences. Some complain of sudden disorientation, dizziness, and nausea when browsing certain aisles. Others describe feeling small, cold hands tugging at their own, as if a child were trying to guide them. More disturbing are the reports of shoppers entering fitting rooms only to find their reflections delayed in the mirrors, as though the glass were showing a slightly different reality. A few have left the store in tears after seeing shadowy figures standing directly behind them in the reflection figures that vanish when they turn around. Paranormal investigators have visited the store multiple times, drawn by its long history of activity. In one session, a team captured chilling electronic voice phenomena near the escalators. The recording revealed faint voices of children calling for their mother, accompanied by a man's deeper tone whispering unintelligible words. On another occasion, investigators reported that their equipment malfunctioned. Simultaneously, batteries drained, cameras froze, and motion detectors triggered without any visible movement. One researcher described the sensation of walking into a pocket of freezing air on the abandoned upper floor, where she felt as though someone were breathing down her neck. Some locals believe the building itself may have been constructed on cursed ground. Before Macy's occupied the site, the location had been home to several other businesses and warehouses. Rumors persist that underground tunnels run beneath the building, remnants of Los Angeles' early days when smuggling and crime were rampant. These tunnels, now sealed, may hide secrets that explain the strange vanishings. Others believe the store is a nexus, a thin spot between worlds where spirits easily cross over. Employees often share their own personal stories in hushed tones. A longtime sales associate admitted she refuses to take the elevator alone after one terrifying encounter. She claims the elevator stopped between floors late one evening, and when the lights flickered, she saw the faint outline of a family pressed against the mirrored wall, inside silent, gray, and watching her with hollow eyes. When the lights came back, she was alone, but the memory has haunted her ever since. Despite these chilling tales, the store remains open, bustling with shoppers by day. Yet for those who know its darker history, Macy's downtown Los Angeles is more than just a department store. It is a place where reality thins, where the living walk alongside the dead, and where laughter from decades past still echoes through the escalators. The building continues to draw curious visitors, but some wonder whether stepping inside risks joining the ranks of those who vanished, leaving only whispers, shadows, and unanswered questions behind. The Target in Riverside appears, at first glance, to be like any other big box store. Its bright red logo glows over the entrance. The aisles are filled with neatly stacked merchandise, and the hum of shopping carts and chatter of customers gives the impression of normalcy. Yet employees and night shift security guards have long whispered of experiences that suggest something far more sinister lurks inside, despite management dismissing claims as coincidence or technical errors. Those who work the late hours know the truth. This Target is haunted, and not in a subtle way. The first signs of strange activity often come from the security room. Multiple incidents have been recorded on surveillance cameras, capturing shoppers entering the store, browsing for a time, and then vanishing entirely. The footage shows them walking down aisles, picking up items, and disappearing into sections of the store where cameras failed to capture their exit. Managers reviewing the tapes usually shrugged, blaming glitches or lost connections in the network. However, employees who work in the building long enough notice a disturbing pattern. These disappearances always occur in certain areas, primarily near the stockrooms and back hallways that rarely see customers. The stockrooms themselves have become the epicenter of the store's paranormal activity. Workers describe arriving to find carts moving on their own, boxes stacked in odd arrangements, and shadows flitting across the room, even when the store is completely empty. Some have reported seeing figures standing motionless in the corners, watching silently. When approached, these shapes vanish, as if dissolving into the walls themselves. One night, a clerk stocking shelves heard footsteps echoing behind him. He turned to find the area empty, yet the sound continued to circle him, echoing off the concrete and metal racks. Heart pounding, he fled to the main store floor, but the sense of being followed persisted for the remainder of his shift. The disappearances of customers are the most unsettling. One report details a young woman browsing the electronics section late at night. Security cameras captured her examining headphones and checking her phone, but within minutes she had vanished. Her cart remained untouched nearby, and her belongings, purse, keys, and phone were left behind. When the staff conducted a search of the store, they found nothing. There were no signs she had exited the building, and her vehicle was still parked outside. The incident was quietly filed as a technical anomaly, but employees who witnessed the footage insist something far stranger occurred. Many workers have noticed a pattern with these vanishings. Shadowy figures often appear in the stockrooms at the exact time a customer disappears. These forms are described as tall, dark silhouettes that seem to wait silently near the exits or along shelving aisles. Sometimes they appear to drift along the walls. Other times they stand completely still, blocking paths or disappearing as quickly as they are noticed. Staff who have accidentally crossed paths with these figures report an immediate chill, a sense of pressure on the chest, and a feeling that unseen eyes are tracking every movement. It is not only the stockrooms that carry this heavy energy. Several employees report sudden cold drafts in otherwise warm areas, especially near the back aisles and delivery doors. Lights flicker unpredictably, sometimes in sync with noises like carts rolling or boxes sliding. Even when the store is completely empty, radios and communication devices occasionally emit static or unintelligible voices. One night, a security guard claimed to hear a whisper from the back corridor telling him to leave now, though he was the only person in the building. Those who have spent extended hours in the store speak of a creeping sense of disorientation. The layout seems to shift subtly, with aisles that appeared empty moments ago suddenly filled with shadows or merchandise moved inexplicably. Some describe feeling drawn toward the stockroom, as if invisible hands were guiding them. One janitor reported being inside a storage area when he suddenly realized he had no recollection of how he arrived there. Hours seemed to pass in moments, and when he returned to the main floor, he was disoriented and shaken, unable to explain the lost time. The building itself has a murky past. While no official history records significant tragedies on the site, local rumor points to the area's long history as farmland and industrial lots. Some speculate that the land was disturbed repeatedly over the decades, leaving restless spirits tied to the ground. Others suggest that the structure's unusually long back hallways, multiple hidden doors, and maze-like stockrooms may create spaces where normal perception breaks down, leaving gaps for supernatural activity to manifest. Despite the strange occurrences, the store remains open, bustling with shoppers during the day. Customers rarely notice anything out of the ordinary, and for most, Target is a place of convenience, sales, and errands. But for employees, especially those on the night shift, the building holds a palpable tension. They speak in hushed tones about the stockrooms and the shadowy figures that wait there, about the customers who enter but never leave, and about the moments when the lights flicker and the air feels impossibly heavy. Paranormal researchers who have investigated the Riverside Target describe it as a hotspot for energy disturbances. Some suggest that the stockrooms and back corridors are thin spots, where the boundary between our world and something darker grows fragile. It is here that people, items, and even time itself seem to vanish, leaving no trace except for the lingering unease that permeates the store long after closing. For those who work in the building, a common mantra has emerged: never enter the stockroom alone, never linger in the back corridors after dark, and never ignore the feeling that someone or something is watching. While shoppers may see only a busy retail store, those who know the stories understand that Target Riverside is something far more unsettling. It is a place where shadows wait, where disappearances are recorded but never explained, and where the ordinary act of shopping can brush dangerously close to the extraordinary and the terrifying. The Ross Dress for Less in San Diego sits unassumingly on a busy street, its bright signage and bustling parking lot giving little hint of the dark history that lingers within. To the casual shopper, it is simply a retail store, filled with discounted clothing, shoes, and accessories. But employees and longtime locals know that the building carries a chilling legacy. Before Ross occupied the site, a hotel stood in its place, a hotel that ended in tragedy. Fires broke out repeatedly over the years, claiming the lives of numerous guests. The devastation left behind a scar on the land, and some say the spirits of those who perished never left. The most disturbing stories revolve around the fitting rooms. Staff describe them as a hotspot for paranormal activity, a place where the past and present seem to collide. On multiple occasions, shoppers have gone into a fitting stall and simply vanished. Their clothing and personal belongings, bags, phones, wallets remain neatly placed on the benches, untouched, as though the person has simply stepped into another dimension. Employees who discover these empty stalls are often left shaken, unable to explain how someone could disappear without leaving any trace. It is not just the disappearances that unsettle workers. Many report a pervasive feeling of being watched whenever they enter the fitting room area after hours. Footsteps echo along the tile floors, though no one else is in the store. Mirrors sometimes fog over inexplicably, as though someone has been breathing heavily on the glass from inside the stalls. Some workers swear they have caught glimpses of shadowy figures out of the corner of their eye, only to have them vanish when looked at directly. One night, a clerk stocking shelves paused to glance into a fitting room mirror and thought she saw a young woman standing inside. When she called out, the figure disappeared, leaving only a chill in the air. Security cameras have captured strange anomalies as well. In one instance, footage shows a shopper entering a stall, only for the camera to glitch moments later. When the video resumes, the stall is empty, and the person is gone. Employees insist that these events are not the result of technical errors, noting the consistency and eerie timing of the disappearances. On multiple occasions, recordings capture objects moving slightly, bags shifting on benches, hangers tilting, or mirrors reflecting movement where none exists. The oppressive energy seems to intensify at night. Employees who work late shifts report sudden cold drafts in the fitting room area, even when all doors and windows are sealed. Lights flicker intermittently, and the faint smell of smoke, reminiscent of the hotel fires, sometimes drifts through the hallways. Workers describe a feeling of heaviness in the air, like a weight pressing down on their shoulders and chest. Many have left the store early because they could not shake the sensation of unseen eyes tracking their every move. Paranormal investigators who have visited the San Diego Ross describe it as one of the most active retail locations they have ever encountered. During one investigation, a team set up motion sensors and audio recorders in the fitting room area. They reported sudden spikes in temperature, electrical interference, and the sensation of being touched by invisible hands. One investigator described feeling a sharp tug on his sleeve, as though someone or something were trying to pull him into a stall. Audio equipment picked up faint, distorted voices, sometimes whispering unintelligible words, other times repeating the phrase, "Stay inside." The store's history provides a chilling context for these experiences. The hotel that once occupied the site was known for frequent and deadly fires. Guests and staff were trapped in stairwells, unable to escape the flames, and many perished in horrific conditions. Though the building was demolished and Ross constructed years later, it appears that the violent deaths left an imprint on the property. Some theorists suggest that the energy of the lives lost during those fires became trapped in the foundation, particularly in the area that corresponds to the fitting rooms. Each disappearance, each strange sound, seems to echo the panic and fear of the past, repeating events that no one has fully witnessed. Staff who have spent years working the store speak of a rhythm to the hauntings. Shoppers are more likely to vanish in the evening, when the store is nearly empty. The mirrors fog more easily late at night, and the shadowy figures appear most frequently in the corners of the fitting room hallway. Some employees have left notes for each other, warning against lingering too long in the area or entering stalls alone. One experienced manager even told a story of a young man who vanished while trying on a jacket. The manager found the man's wallet on the bench afterward, open to the last receipt he had looked at. The young man was never seen again. Despite the unsettling activity, the San Diego Ross continues to operate, filled with shoppers during the day who remain oblivious to the tragedies beneath the fluorescent lights. However, employees know the truth. The fitting rooms are a dangerous place, a threshold between the living and something else, something rooted in the fires of the old hotel. The empty stalls, fogged mirrors, cold drafts, and unexplained movements are not mere coincidences. They are reminders that the past is never truly gone. Those who have survived close encounters describe a lingering fear that never fully fades. They speak in hushed tones about the vanishing shoppers, the oppressive weight in the fitting rooms, and the shadowy figures that seem to watch from the corners. For them, the store is more than a workplace. It is a haunted landmark, a place where the horrors of the past continue to unfold. And while customers continue to shop for bargains, those who know the stories avoid the fitting rooms when the lights grow dim and the store grows quiet, wary of the spirits that may still roam the hallways, waiting for the next person to step inside and never come out. The Kohl's in Fresno appears ordinary to anyone passing by. Its bright signage, wide glass doors, and neatly arranged aisles make it look like just another large department store. Families shop for clothes, teens browse electronics, and bargain hunters fill their carts with seasonal deals. But behind its cheerful facade lies a darker history, whispered among employees and longtime locals. The store is built atop a forgotten burial ground, and those who venture too deep into its aisles sometimes vanish without explanation. Shoppers have gone missing for decades. Security footage occasionally captures the moments just before someone disappears. A person might be seen pushing a cart down an aisle, examining products, or chatting on their phone. Then, between shelves or near corners, they vanish. Cameras sometimes glitch at precisely that moment, footage skipping or freezing, only to resume with the shopper gone. Their belongings, bags, coats, or wallets are often left behind, untouched on the floor or on a display table. Managers usually write these incidents off as technical errors, or assume the shopper simply exited the building, but employees know better. The mirrors lining certain sections of the store are particularly unsettling. Customers and staff alike report strange phenomena. Reflections that move independently, surfaces that ripple as if disturbed by an invisible current, or glimpses of shadowy figures standing behind them for a split second. Some claim that staring too long into the mirrors causes dizziness, disorientation, or even a faint sense of vertigo, as though the glass itself is trying to pull them in. Longtime staff insist that the mirrors mark the boundaries between our world and something else, acting as thin portals where the spirits of the buried might slip through. Late-night shifts are the most harrowing. Workers restocking shelves report hearing footsteps echoing through the empty aisles, the soft roll of shopping carts, or faint whispers in corners that remain unseen. They describe the sensation of being watched, cold drafts sweeping past without origin, and the subtle feeling that the layout of the store shifts while no one is looking. A clerk recounts walking toward the home goods section, only to find an aisle she knew well suddenly longer, shelves in slightly different positions, and a mirror that reflected a doorway where none existed. She backed away immediately, only to find the aisle restored moments later, as though reality itself had realigned. Disappearing shoppers are most frequently reported in the clothing aisles. One incident involved a young woman shopping for a jacket. Security cameras captured her walking between racks, pausing to examine a coat. Within seconds, she vanished. Her purse and phone remained on a nearby display table. Employees searched the area thoroughly and questioned anyone who might have seen her leave, but she had disappeared completely. Surveillance footage later showed a subtle shimmer in the mirror on the wall, as though the glass itself had been disturbed at the moment she vanished. Some staff have tried to document these events, setting up cameras and motion sensors during overnight shifts. The results are unnerving. Objects sometimes move on their own, hangers tilt, clothing drifts slightly on racks, or boxes shift across the floor. Shadows appear in corners, dark figures that vanish when approached. Audio devices occasionally pick up whispers, low murmurs that grow and fade as if moving through the store. One investigator reported feeling a pressure on his chest while walking past the fitting rooms, and claimed the mirrors along the walls quivered in response, like water disturbed by invisible hands. The legend of the burial ground adds a chilling explanation to the strange occurrences. Locals say the land once served as a small cemetery for early settlers, with graves unmarked and eventually forgotten as the city expanded. When Kohl's was built, decades later, any records of the site had long been lost. Paranormal theorists suggest that the spirits of the buried remained tied to the land, restless and unseen, and that the store's construction disturbed them. Some even speculate that the mirrors throughout the building act as gateways, thin spots where these spirits can emerge, pull people in, or manipulate reality in subtle, terrifying ways. Employees who work late shifts often develop their own rules to survive. Many avoid certain aisles entirely after dark, particularly those with mirrors lining the walls. They refuse to enter the fitting rooms alone, and several claim they have heard someone or something call their name when no one else is present. Nighttime stalking is done in pairs whenever possible, and some have even left early after feeling an oppressive heaviness settle over the store. An invisible presence they described as watching, waiting. The store's atmosphere is thick with tension, even during daylight hours. Shoppers report feeling sudden chills, inexplicable vertigo, or the sense that someone is following them, though they see no one. Mirrors occasionally reveal fleeting images, strange distortions, or glimpses of figures standing just beyond the edge of vision. Employees whisper about the ripple effect, a phenomenon in which a reflection briefly becomes a doorway to another space, perhaps the one where missing shoppers have gone. Paranormal investigators who have visited the Fresno Kohl's describe it as one of the most active retail locations they have ever seen. The combination of the building's layered history, its reflective surfaces, and the countless missing shoppers creates a nexus of energy, unlike most modern stores. Researchers report that the air often grows heavy and cold in specific areas, that electronic equipment frequently malfunctions, and that unexplainable shadows appear and disappear in ways that defy physics. Despite the unsettling history and eerie occurrences, Kohl's in Fresno remains open and busy. Shoppers continue to browse the aisles, oblivious to the disappearances and supernatural activity lurking around them. But employees know the truth. The mirrors ripple, the aisles shift, and the spirits of the buried linger. Unseen but present, those who vanish between the racks are never truly gone, and the store itself seems alive with a restless consciousness, silently waiting for the next unsuspecting shopper to stray too far. The Best Buy in Sacramento presents itself as an ordinary electronics store, filled with neatly organized aisles of televisions, computers, and DVD racks. To the casual shopper, it's just another retail chain, a place to pick up the latest gadgets or browse discounted electronics. Yet behind its bright fluorescent lights and glossy displays, the building hides a far darker reputation, one that employees, longtime locals, and paranormal investigators rarely discuss openly. For years, customers have reported hearing voices calling their names from the store's dark corners. It begins subtly, a faint whisper when browsing the audio section, or a soft, almost imperceptible calling near the back aisles. Many dismiss it as coincidence or the trick of acoustics in such a large space. But some who have experienced it swear the voices are unmistakably human, repeating names with perfect clarity, seeming to come from nowhere at all. A few have reported turning toward the sound, only to find empty aisles, the shelves perfectly still. Yet the sense of being watched impossible to shake. The DVD section has become infamous for far more than auditory anomalies. During the early 2000s, a handful of shoppers reportedly vanished while browsing the racks. Security footage is sparse, but surviving records show customers entering the area and never leaving. Their shopping carts were left abandoned in the aisle, their personal belongings scattered as if they had simply stepped into another dimension. Police investigations at the time yielded no evidence of foul play, no sign that the missing persons had left the store, and no trace beyond the sudden disappearance itself. Employees who worked there during those years remember the panic that spread each time someone vanished, and the quiet dread that never fully dissipated. Even today, staff reports unsettling phenomena in the DVD and media sections. Shadows appear to flit between the shelves, reflected briefly in the dark surfaces of television screens or DVD cases. Some describe seeing figures crouched low, peering from behind displays, only to vanish the moment they focus on them. Others have noticed that the aisles themselves feel subtly altered, as if the shelving has shifted or the distance between racks stretches and contracts, making navigation disorienting. Night shift workers describe the area as thick with energy, a weight in the air that presses down and makes movement sluggish, like wading through water. Paranormal investigators who have examined the Sacramento Best Buy believe the building holds secrets beneath its floors. According to blueprints, the store is a single-level structure, yet several teams claim to have detected a hidden basement. This unmarked sublevel appears inaccessible from conventional entrances and is absent from all official documentation. Investigators using electromagnetic sensors and thermal cameras report unusual readings in certain areas, particularly beneath the DVD and electronics sections. They theorize that the missing basement may be the focal point of the store's paranormal activity, a place where something ancient or something unnatural lingers, unseen and undisturbed. Employees speak in hushed tones about the back corners of the store, where the most activity occurs. Stockroom staff report hearing footsteps when no one else is present, faint murmurs in languages they cannot understand, or voices mimicking their own, calling them by name. One clerk recounted walking past the audio section late at night, only to hear his name whispered clearly from a shadowed corner. When he turned, the aisle was empty. Yet he felt a cold draft brush against his neck, and his hair stood on end. Others describe electronics powering on or off spontaneously, screens flickering to static, or displaying images of figures standing in dark hallways that do not exist in the store itself. The DVD disappearances seem particularly tied to the building's hidden history. Investigators and longtime employees suggest that the unmarked basement may have been a storage area or secret facility during construction, perhaps never intended for public access. Some theorize that it acts as a thin spot, a weak boundary between the living world and something else entirely. Those who wander too close, particularly in the dimly lit media aisles, may be drawn in, their presence absorbed into a space that is not fully part of the store. The abandoned carts and personal items left behind serve as silent markers of this strange, ongoing phenomenon. Visitors occasionally report physical sensations, to what shoppers have described as sudden, heavy pressure on their chests near the DVD section, cold drafts in areas where the HVAC system cannot account for them, and a sense of nausea or vertigo when standing too long in certain aisles. One night shift employee described a chilling moment when he felt an invisible hand grasp his shoulder, pulling him toward the electronics section. He broke free and fled, only to find that the store appeared unchanged, the lights humming normally, as if nothing had happened. Despite the eerie occurrences, the Sacramento Best Buy continues to operate, drawing crowds during the day and remaining open late into the evening. Many of the shoppers remain unaware of the strange history that permeates the building. But for employees and those who have experienced its darker side, the store is a labyrinth of unseen forces, filled with shifting shadows, phantom voices, and the constant reminder of the people who vanished without explanation. Paranormal teams continue to monitor the store, documenting irregularities and attempting to map the hidden basement. Sensors detect anomalies that defy explanation, and recordings pick up whispers and footsteps with no source. Some theorize that the building acts as a kind of liminal space, a threshold where the living can glimpse or even be pulled into the unknown. For employees, this is not merely speculation. It is a reality that they live with night after night, guiding them to avoid certain aisles, work in pairs after dark, and never linger near the DVD section. To outsiders, the Sacramento Best Buy is simply a place to buy electronics and DVDs. But for those who know its secrets, it is far more than a store. It is a place where voices call from shadows, where mirrors and screens reveal more than reflections, and where the vanished may still linger, waiting for the next person to wander too far into the dark corners of the aisles. The small thrift store in Bakersfield looks unremarkable from the street. Its faded sign and dusty windows give the impression of a modest shop filled with second-hand treasures and everyday bargains. To casual shoppers, it is simply a place to browse for vintage clothing, old books, or forgotten curiosities. But behind its quiet facade, The store has long been known for something far more sinister. Employees, longtime locals, and a handful of investigators whisper of cursed objects, strange disappearances, and a darkness that seems to cling to the very walls. The most unnerving reports involve customers who purchase antiques only to vanish without a trace. One well-documented case involves a woman buying an ornate, tarnished mirror from the back corner of the shop. She left the store carrying the mirror in a bag, but she was never seen again. Her car remained parked in the lot for days, her home untouched, and her family received no communication from her. Others report similar incidents. Shoppers taking home clocks, figurines, or old jewelry, only to vanish hours or days later. The items sometimes reappear in the store weeks afterward, placed on a shelf in exactly the same position, as though the store itself has reclaimed them. Inside the shop, employees often experience strange phenomena. Shelves shake as though someone is running along the aisles, even when the store is empty. Antique furniture occasionally shifts position overnight, and small objects, keys, trinkets, or books are frequently found in places they were never left. Mirrors in the shop are particularly notorious. Staff describe fogged surfaces in which shadowy figures can be glimpsed, movements that are not their own, or reflections that persist a fraction of a second after they move away. Some employees swear the mirrors act as thresholds, thin spots between this world and another, and that looking too closely invites whatever resides there to step through. The grainy, distorted security footage only heightens the sense of unease. Cameras capture fleeting shapes moving through the store at odd angles, often appearing elongated or blurred in ways that defy normal explanation. In several cases, the last moments of missing customers are recorded as nothing more than vague outlines or flickers of movement in dark corners. One tape shows a man reaching toward a shelf, bending to examine a small figurine, and then dissolving into static as the video abruptly glitches. When the footage resumes, he is gone, leaving behind his wallet and a half-finished cup of coffee. Employees describe the feeling of watching the recordings as intensely unsettling, the images seeming almost alive, vibrating with a malevolent presence. Late-night shifts are particularly harrowing. Workers report hearing whispers that echo through the aisles, indistinct but unmistakably human. Footsteps follow them around corners, only to vanish when investigated. Some staff recount experiencing sudden, icy drafts or the sensation of invisible hands brushing against their shoulders. One night, a clerk stocking shelves in the back room claims a shelf of antique dolls shifted suddenly, their glass eyes catching the light and following her movement. She left the store immediately, unable to shake the feeling that the dolls were aware of her presence. Paranormal investigators who have visited the Bakersfield thrift store describe it as a hotspot for energy anomalies. Electromagnetic sensors frequently spike, cameras fail inexplicably, and investigators report sudden pressure on their chests when standing near certain objects. One researcher described a display of old clocks that began ticking loudly despite being unplugged, the sound growing in volume until the team fled. Another recorded whispers, repeating a single warning over and over. Do not take it. The sense of intentionality of objects themselves, harboring a dark, restless consciousness, is a common theme in every report. The cursed items themselves are varied but share unsettling traits. Mirrors, clocks, dolls, and figurines often seem to change position, reflect things they should not, or draw attention in a way that feels unnatural. A small wooden box purchased by one customer was found months later in the store, open and empty, yet emanating a palpable chill. A pocket watch vanished from one collector's home and reappeared on the same shelf in the thrift store, still ticking, though its hands moved erratically, sometimes reversing direction. Employees have learned to avoid touching certain items after hours, leaving them untouched to avoid what they believe might be consequences beyond human understanding. Shoppers themselves describe disorienting experiences inside the store. Some report sudden dizziness, nausea, or a vertigo-like sensation when browsing the back aisles. Others claim to feel eyes watching them from the corners, glimpsing shadowy forms between shelves, or hearing their own names whispered from nowhere. One customer recounted entering the store to browse a rack of clothing, only to emerge minutes later with no memory of how she reached the front. Her cart contained items she did not recall selecting, and a small trinketan old cameo brooch rested in her pocket, unfamiliar and cold to the touch. The thrift store's history is murky, but local lore suggests that the building was constructed over a site long associated with misfortune. Some say it was once a workshop where tragic accidents occurred. Others whisper of a hidden crypt or burial site beneath the foundation. Whatever the truth, the energy within the store is undeniable to those who work there. The walls seem to hum with unseen activity, and the objects themselves carry a weight, as if alive with memory, grief, or malevolence. Despite these warnings, the store continues to operate, attracting curious bargain hunters and regular shoppers alike. Few are aware of the cursed items or the disappearances that have taken place over the years. Employees, however, live with the knowledge that certain aisles and objects are best avoided, that mirrors may conceal more than reflections, and that the grainy footage captures fragments of a reality they are only beginning to understand. The store may look ordinary, but those who have witnessed its darker side know the truth. Behind the shelves, among the antiques, and in the shadows of the aisles, something watches, waits, and sometimes reaches out to claim the unsuspecting. The Walmart in Palmdale stands as a familiar landmark to locals, its sprawling parking lot and bright fluorescent lights welcoming shoppers from morning until night. To outsiders, it appears as any other large retail store, a place for groceries, electronics, and household essentials. But for employees and some longtime customers, the store and its surrounding lot carry a far darker reputation. Tales of disappearances, ghostly figures, and abandoned carts have persisted for years, giving the store a chilling aura that lingers long after closing time. The first signs of trouble often appear in the parking lot. Employees report seeing shoppers enter the building, sometimes even pushing full carts, only for the security cameras to show them vanishing before reaching the checkout. Occasionally, these carts are discovered later, abandoned in the middle of aisles or near the entrance, as if the person inside had simply ceased to exist. Some employees claim the carts are oddly aligned, sometimes forming straight rows that suggest a silent order, while others are overturned or filled with merchandise left untouched. These anomalies have been recorded on security footage, though management often dismisses them as glitches or poor camera angles. Staff, however, know better. Inside the store, the phenomenon continues. Shoppers occasionally disappear while browsing, leaving personal belongings behind: wallets, phones, or bags left neatly on shelves or countertops. One incident involved a man looking at a display of electronics. Security cameras captured him examining a laptop, placing it back on the shelf, and then walking toward the nearby aisle. Moments later, the footage froze. When it resumed, he had vanished entirely, leaving the laptop open and his backpack on the floor. The footage showed no exit, no forced movement, and no signs of tampering. Staff who witnessed the disappearance reported a feeling of unease that persisted long after the store emptied for the night. Employees often experience strange sensations, particularly during late-night shifts. Many report hearing footsteps following them through empty aisles, carts rolling on their own, and the faint whispers of voices that seem to come from nowhere. Some describe sudden temperature drops, especially near the back sections of the store, where freezers hum and electronics emit a constant low buzz. Others have encountered shadowy figures moving quickly between shelves, vanishing when approached, leaving behind only the faint scent of something metallic or burnt. One clerk described walking through the grocery section after closing, only to see a man standing silently in the middle of the aisle. When she called out, he disappeared, leaving the store eerily silent except for the hum of the refrigeration units. The parking lot itself seems to echo the store's strange energy. Employees have reported seeing figures standing near vehicles late at night, only for them to vanish when approached. Lights in the lot occasionally flicker, casting long shadows that seem to move independently of the surroundings. Some claim to have witnessed shoppers walking toward the entrance, their forms blurred and distorted, and then stepping into the store, only to vanish entirely. Abandoned carts are sometimes found near cars, though the shoppers themselves are gone, leaving employees to wonder whether the lot acts as an extension of the store's mysterious activity. Paranormal investigators who have examined the Palmdale Walmart describe it as unusually active, using thermal cameras, electromagnetic sensors, and audio recorders. They report significant anomalies in both the interior and the parking lot. Cold spots appear spontaneously, equipment malfunctions without explanation, and audio devices capture distorted voices calling names or repeating the word "stay." One team even reported seeing shadowy figures reflected in glass doors and windows that did not correspond to any physical presence inside or outside the building. Investigators speculate that the store and its lot may be built on a site with a long history of unsettled energy, possibly connected to prior land use or even local folklore. Employees also speak of the aisles themselves as subtly shifting. Certain sections feel disorienting, with shelves appearing slightly closer or further apart than usual, or products seeming to move just out of the corner of one's eye. Some claim that mirrors in the electronics and home goods sections ripple as though liquid, reflecting forms that are not present in reality. One stockroom worker described a feeling of being tugged toward the back aisles, as though invisible hands guided her movement. These experiences have instilled a sense of wariness among staff, who often work in pairs after dark and avoid certain areas whenever possible. The vanished shoppers often become stories whispered among employees. A young couple shopping for baby items reportedly disappeared in one of the middle aisles. Their cart remained perfectly positioned near the diapers and blankets, with items neatly stacked inside. Another customer, reportedly elderly, entered the electronics section and was never seen again, leaving behind a sweater draped over a chair and a cane leaning against a shelf. These disappearances, combined with the store's odd energy and the reports from night staff, contribute to a growing sense of unease that has persisted for decades. Despite the eerie history, Walmart Palmdale continues to operate as a bustling retail hub during the day. Shoppers come and go, unaware of the strange activity lurking in the shadows and corners of the aisles. But employees know the truth. The store and its parking lot are more than mere retail space. They are places where reality seems to bend, where people can vanish in an instant, and where unseen forces linger among the shelves, carts, and fluorescent lights. Those who have spent extended hours inside and around the store speak of it as a living entity, one that watches, waits, and sometimes claims those who venture too far. The abandoned carts, the chilling footsteps, the vanished shoppers, and the whispering voices serve as constant reminders that something is not quite right at Walmart Palmdale. And for those who know the stories, every late-night shift is a delicate balance between the ordinary and the inexplicable. A place where the mundane act of shopping can brush terrifyingly close to the unknown. The Apple Store in Santa Monica presents itself as a model of modern design. Sleek glass walls, minimalist displays, and bright white lighting that highlights every device on the shelves. To the casual visitor, it is simply a place to browse the latest technology. Try out iPhones, iPads, and MacBooks, or attend a workshop. But beneath its glossy exterior lies a chilling history that few patrons know. The store sits on the ruins of a 1920s theater, a once grand venue that hosted vaudeville acts, silent films, and elaborate stage productions. Fires, accidents, and unexplained deaths haunted the theater's final years, leaving a scar on the land that seems to linger to this day. Employees report that the Apple Store has become a hotspot for strange occurrences, some of which border on the supernatural. Shoppers occasionally vanish while browsing, leaving behind bags, phones, or jackets as if they had stepped into another dimension. One instance involved a young man testing a MacBook in the laptop section. Security cameras captured him interacting with the device, then turning toward the rear display tables. Moments later, the footage glitched into static. When it resumed, he was going to no exit, no disturbance, nothing but the flickering of screens that remained powered on. Staff who witnessed the event described the atmosphere as suffocating, the lights seeming brighter and colder simultaneously, as if the store itself were aware of the disappearance. The theater's tragic history seems to bleed into the modern space. Some employees speak of the woman in white, a figure captured intermittently on security footage. She appears as a spectral image in a flowing white gown, her face obscured by shadow, often gliding past displays or standing at the edge of the store's entrances. Cameras sometimes freeze on her figure, only for her to dissolve into static before anyone can approach. Staff swear she is linked to the disappearances, that she is the remnant of a performer or patron from the theater's final days, forever wandering the ruins beneath the store. Late-night shifts are especially harrowing. Workers report hearing whispers, faint applause, and the soft tapping of heels across the polished floors, even when the store is empty. Footsteps seem to follow them through the aisles, growing louder when they pause and fading when they hurry. Some describe a sudden chill in the air, particularly near the display tables in the back, as if the ghosts of the theater had retained the drafty sensation of backstage corridors. Mirrors and glass surfaces occasionally reflect forms that are not physically present, silhouettes standing in doorways or seated in empty chairs. One technician stocking devices at closing time recounted seeing the woman in white reflected in a glass partition. When he turned to face her directly, she vanished into nothingness, leaving only a cold pressure in the air. Security footage from over the years contains countless anomalies. Some tapes show shoppers walking into aisles, then simply disappearing. Others capture shadows flitting across floors, disappearing into walls, or shifting in impossible ways. On occasion, screens display flickering images of curtains, stage props, or the faint outline of audience seats, though no such items exist in the current store. Investigators who have examined the footage suggest that the store may be a thin spot, a place where the fabric of reality is weak, and where remnants of the old theater occasionally bleed through. The vanishings are not limited to random shoppers. Employees occasionally feel a presence pressing in on them while working alone, particularly near high-end displays of laptops and phones. Some describe the sensation as a tug, a pull that seems to draw them toward a particular section of the store, usually near the original location of the theater's stage. One worker recounted arranging new iPads when she felt a sharp tug at her sleeve, as though invisible hands tried to pull her into the air above the display tables. The effect left her trembling, and she refused to return to that section alone. Visitors have occasionally sensed the theater's history themselves. Shoppers report feeling watched, experiencing sudden dizziness, or noticing reflections in the glass that move independently of their own. Some have glimpsed fleeting figures at the edges of their vision, performers frozen mid-step, a woman bowing gracefully, or shadows that mimic their movements before disappearing entirely. Many dismiss these as tricks of the light, but staff know these are the echoes of lives long past, clinging stubbornly to the foundations of the store. Paranormal investigators who have examined the Apple Store note that the energy seems concentrated in certain areas, near the rear display tables, the staircase leading to storage, and along the glass walls overlooking the street. Electromagnetic sensors spike inexplicably, temperature drops are severe and sudden, and audio devices record distorted whispers and faint applause. Several investigators claim that the woman in white is a sentinel, tied to the land and the theater's tragic past, appearing to warn or observe those who enter. Some speculate that shoppers who vanish are drawn into a residual energy, trapped in a loop of time that mirrors the theater's final performances. Despite its eerie reputation, the Apple Store remains bustling during the day. Tourists, students, and tech enthusiasts fill the aisles, oblivious to the strange energy lurking in the corners. Employees, however, are well aware of the building's legacy. They avoid certain aisles after hours, work in pairs, and leave lights on to reduce the sense of isolation. Mirrors are approached cautiously, and devices are handled with care, lest the store's restless presence take notice. The Apple Store in Santa Monica is more than a retail space. It is a nexus of past and present, a place where the glamour of a 1920s theater meets the modern shine of technology. Those who vanish between the displays, the whispers that echo through empty aisles, and the woman in white captured fleetingly on camera all serve as reminders that history is never truly gone. The theater's ghosts remain woven into the very foundation, waiting silently for the next unsuspecting visitor to step inside. The thrift boutique in San Jose appears unassuming from the outside, with a simple painted sign and a window display of vintage clothing and trinkets. To anyone passing by, it seems like a quaint second-hand shop, a place to browse for unique finds or inexpensive treasures. But behind the cheerful facade, the store has long been the site of unnerving occurrences. Staff and locals whisper of haunted donations, disappearing shoppers, and an oppressive energy that seems to saturate the building. Those who work there know that the thrift boutique is far more than a simple shop hit. It's a place where the past refuses to stay buried. Employees frequently report strange activity in the store. Mannequins, often posed along the aisles or in windows, have been observed moving on their own. One clerk described setting up a display of vintage dresses in the front window late in the evening, only to return an hour later to find the mannequins shifted, some facing outward toward the street, others turned to face the wall. Nothing could account for the movement. No drafts, no vibrations, no other employees present. Over time, staff have learned to avoid direct eye contact with certain mannequins, claiming that they give off a sense of awareness, as though they are watching. The back room of the store is particularly notorious. Customers, particularly those wandering alone, sometimes hear faint whispers calling their names, seemingly emanating from the shelves or from the shadows themselves. Many have followed the voices, compelled by a mix of curiosity and unease, only to vanish without a trace. Security cameras capture them stepping into the room, but footage often becomes grainy or distorted, the images flickering as if reality itself is faltering. When the footage resumes, the person is gone. Their belongings, purses, jackets, shopping bags remain on the floor or shelves, untouched, a silent marker of their disappearance. Some staff describe the back room as different from the rest of the store. The air is colder, heavier, and seems to press in on anyone who enters. Shadows stretch across walls in impossible ways, and the light from overhead bulbs occasionally flickers despite functioning wiring. Employees who have entered alone report hearing footsteps behind them, whispers that echo their own movements, and the sensation of being guided toward shelves or displays. A longtime employee described feeling a tug at her wrist, as if invisible hands were drawing her forward. She fled immediately, convinced the store itself was trying to pull her into the shadows. Many of the items in the thrift boutique are believed to carry residual energy. Donated clothing, old dolls, figurines, and antique furniture are said to be the most active. One employee recalls a vintage mirror left in the shop that seemed to distort reflections, showing fleeting images of people who were not present. Another described a music box that played by itself at night, emitting a haunting lullaby that echoed through empty aisles. Some believe that the objects themselves are not inherently malicious, but that they hold the memories, emotions, and tragedies of their previous owners, which cling to the boutique like a dense fog. Security footage provides some of the most chilling evidence. Cameras, record shoppers entering the store, moving through aisles, and then stepping toward the back room only to vanish. The images are often blurred or corrupted during these moments, showing vague outlines and shadows that twist unnaturally. Occasionally, a figure appears standing still at the edge of the frame, a dark silhouette resembling one of the mannequins, before dissolving into static. Staff swear that these anomalies are not mere technical glitches, but proof of something beyond comprehension. Employees have developed informal rules to navigate the store safely. They avoid the back room whenever possible, never enter alone, and avoid lingering near certain displays. Some claim that certain mannequins, particularly those near the windows and the entrance to the back room, seem to mark boundaries, almost like guardians, preventing or inviting people into the unknown. One clerk described how she always keeps her reflection out of mirrors while walking through the aisles, fearing that even a glance could attract attention from the unseen presence inhabiting the space. Shoppers sometimes experience unsettling sensations themselves. Many report hearing whispers calling their names, feeling cold drafts brush against their shoulders, or sensing that someone or something is following them as they wander through the aisles. Some describe dizziness or nausea when standing near particularly active objects, while others claim that they catch glimpses of figures out of the corner of their eye that vanish the moment they try to focus. A few customers have left in a panic, their bags abandoned mid-aisle, never to return. Paranormal investigators who have examined the thrift boutique describe it as highly active, using thermal imaging, EMF detectors, and audio recording devices. They report significant spikes in energy, cold spots, and anomalous readings near the back room and around mannequins. Voices, faint but distinct, are sometimes captured, repeating names or phrases such as "come and stay." Investigators speculate that the building has absorbed layers of energy over time, particularly through the donated objects, and that these energies are connected to the disappearances. Some suggest that the back room serves as a sort of liminal space, a threshold between the physical world and something else entirely. Despite its eerie reputation, the thrift boutique remains open to the public. Shoppers continue to browse for bargains, often unaware of the strange energy lurking in the corners. But for employees, the reality is different. Every shift is a careful balance between the mundane and the inexplicable. The mannequins, the haunted donations, the whispered voices, and the vanishings are constant reminders that the store is more than it appears. Those who follow the call of the back room risk being claimed by whatever force resides there, swallowed into a darkness that seems to exist just beyond the edge of sight. The GameStop in Anaheim looks like any other modern video game store. Bright fluorescent lights, shelves stacked with the latest consoles, games, and collectibles, and the hum of customers browsing through aisles. By day, it's a hub for gamers, teenagers, and collectors. But once night falls, employees report that the store takes on a chilling, almost otherworldly quality. The fluorescent hum seems sharper, the shadows between the shelves deeper, and a strange energy lingers, tied to the building's history and its past life as an arcade. For years, workers have reported the sound of children laughing after closing, a hollow, echoing noise that drifts through the aisles. At first, it seemed like a prank or the remnants of a security system glitch, but over time, the phenomenon became impossible to ignore. The laughter often comes from areas near the older display sections where arcade machines once stood. Though the machines were long removed, employees insist that the energy associated with them remains, and that this energy is malevolent, somehow tied to the disappearance of several children who were last seen browsing the store. The vanishings are difficult to explain. Parents have recounted entering the store with their children, letting them browse the aisles for new releases or collectible items, only to find moments later that their kids had disappeared. Security footage frequently captures children entering certain corners of the store, and then the feed either glitches or shows nothing until they are gone. In one particularly chilling incident, a child wandered toward a row of empty display shelves where arcade cabinets had once been placed. The footage shows the child stopping, looking around, and then fading as though swallowed by the air itself. Their backpack and shopping basket remained on the floor, untouched, while the store appeared otherwise empty. Employees who worked the night shift describe the experience as disorienting and unnerving. Some report seeing fleeting shadows dart between shelves, the faint outline of small figures that vanish when approached. Others feel the sensation of being watched, hearing whispers calling their names, or sensing the presence of unseen children moving behind them. One clerk described stocking shelves late at night when she felt a tug at her sleeve. She turned to see a small figure standing in the corner, only to have it vanish when she blinked. The experience left her shaken, and she refused to enter that section of the store alone ever again. The arcade machines themselves, though long gone, are often blamed for the strange energy. Employees believe that when the machines were active, some sort of dark resonance was created, an energy tied to joy, competition, and obsession, which remained even after the cabinets were removed. Staff report that even empty shelves in those areas feel heavy with unseen presence, as if the echoes of games long played continued to exist. Some have noticed faint impressions of the machines on the floor or walls, subtle markings that shift overnight, reinforcing the sense that something has been left behind. Visitors occasionally experience physical sensations as well. Shoppers have reported sudden chills, dizziness, or nausea while standing near the back aisles. Some hear whispers repeating their names, faint giggles, or the sound of coins clinking together as though someone were playing an invisible game. One parent recounted feeling a cold hand brush against their arm while searching for their child near the old arcade area, only to find the space empty. These incidents are rarely reported publicly, but employees have come to expect the strange phenomena as part of the building's nightly character. Security footage provides some of the most unsettling evidence. Tapes often show children entering the aisles near the old arcade displays, reaching toward empty shelves, and then disappearing in a momentary flicker of light. Sometimes the footage freezes or distorts, showing only static, while the sound of laughter continues, clear and almost too close to ignore. Investigators who have examined these tapes suggest that the store acts as a focal point for residual energy, a thin space between the living world and whatever lingers from the arcade's past. Employees have developed strategies to cope with the strange occurrences. Night workers often stick to well-lit areas and avoid the back aisles entirely. Some place personal items, such as keys or badges, on counters as protective markers, believing that objects can anchor them to the physical world. Others report that speaking aloud while moving through the aisles seems to reduce the intensity of whispers or laughter. Despite these precautions, the sense of unease never fully disappears, and employees often leave feeling drained or unsettled. Paranormal investigators have examined the Anaheim GameStop multiple times, using thermal imaging, EMF detectors, and audio recorders. They report strong anomalies in the sections where arcade machines once stood. Cold spots appear spontaneously, equipment malfunctions without explanation, and audio devices record distorted voices that sound like children calling for attention. Some investigators speculate that the store may be a liminal space, a threshold between the present and residual energies, where the joy, obsession, and chaos of past gaming have solidified into something almost sentient. Despite the eerie history, the store remains open to the public during the day. Shoppers come and go, unaware of the strange energy that awakens after closing. But for employees, the building is a place where shadows linger, where the laughter of vanished children echoes endlessly, and where the arcade's dark legacy refuses to fade. Those who wander too close to the empty shelves or follow the faint calls risk being pulled into something beyond comprehension, leaving only their abandoned belongings behind. The Anaheim GameStop is more than a retail space. It is a conduit of past joys and lingering fears. The laughter, the vanishings, and the spectral presence of children all serve as reminders that not every corner of the store belongs to the living. To outsiders, it is a place to buy games and consoles. To those who work there, it is a haunted labyrinth, where echoes of the arcade's past continue to claim the curious and the unwary. The Marshalls in Oakland appears at first glance as a bustling, ordinary department store. Its aisles are lined with racks of clothing, shelves of household goods, and displays of shoes and accessories. During the day, shoppers flow in and out, filling carts with discounted treasures and seasonal bargains. But behind the cheerful signage and fluorescent lights lies a history and a reputation that casts a chilling shadow over the store. Employees and customers alike report bizarre experiences, a strange warping of time, sudden disappearances, and inexplicable anomalies captured on security footage. Many shoppers describe an unsettling sensation upon entering the store. Time seems to distort inside the building. A quick trip for a single item can stretch into hours. Customers often leave with no memory of how long they were inside, only to glance at their watches and realize entire blocks of time have vanished. In some cases, people disappear entirely, A woman entering the store to browse the shoe section was last seen on security footage stepping into a corner aisle. When the tape resumes, she is gone, her cart abandoned, her phone left on the display counter, and no record of her ever leaving the building. Employees have recounted multiple instances where shoppers vanish without explanation. One evening, a clerk restocking shelves in the home goods section noticed a young man examining a set of kitchen appliances. Moments later, the young man was nowhere to be seen. The footage shows him entering an aisle, and then the video glitches into static. When it resumes, he is gone. Staff insist that the person did not leave through the front or back doors. There is no sign of exit, no disturbance, nothing to suggest a normal disappearance. Over the years, these incidents have become whispered warnings among employees. Certain aisles are best avoided, especially late at night. Time distortions are not limited to visitors. Employees report experiencing sudden disorientation while walking through the store. Clocks seem to spin faster or slower, and the layout of aisles can subtly shift, leaving workers confused about their location. Some describe moments when a section of the store appears empty, only for the same shoppers to reappear minutes later in the same spot, oblivious to the missing time. Others have recounted hearing voices echoing through empty aisles, footsteps following them closely, or the faint hum of machinery where none exists. Security footage often provides the most disturbing evidence. Cameras capture shoppers walking into aisles or toward back sections, only for the video to freeze or degrade into static. When the footage resumes, the person is gone, sometimes leaving behind personal items, a purse, a jacket, a backpack on the shelves or the floor. One particularly chilling clip shows a family of 3 entering the store, the children excitedly pointing at toys. Moments later, the tape glitches, and when the footage resumes, the parents are frantically searching the aisles alone. The children have vanished without a trace. Analysts have repeatedly reviewed the footage, finding no tampering or explanation, deepening the mystery surrounding the building. Employees often describe the sensation of being observed. Shadows in the corners of the store seem to move independently of lighting, and certain aisles are said to emit a cold, oppressive energy. Workers recount hearing whispers that echo their own thoughts or names being called in the distance, only for no one to appear. Some report feeling a slight tug, as if invisible hands guide them along a specific path or toward a particular aisle. Many longtime staff avoid working alone after dark, using flashlights or keeping personal objects nearby to maintain a sense of grounding. Paranormal investigators who have examined the Oakland Marshals note its unusually high activity. EMF sensors, thermal cameras, and audio recorders all register anomalies. Cold spots appear suddenly, fluctuating in intensity, while electronic devices occasionally malfunction without explanation. Investigators report capturing faint voices, repeating names or phrases like "stay" and "come," as if beckoning or warning. Thermal cameras sometimes reveal fleeting silhouettes moving against the flow of customers, and in some cases, shadowy figures appear frozen mid-motion before vanishing entirely. Some speculate that the building sits on a site with a dark past, possibly linked to old industrial operations or long-forgotten urban structures beneath the surface. Others suggest that the anomalies are tied to the energies of the countless people who have passed through the store over the years, creating a pocket where time and space behave unpredictably. Whatever the explanation, those who have spent significant time in the store attest that the phenomenon is real, and it has grown more pronounced over time. Shoppers often describe the aisles as subtly shifting, as if the building itself is alive. Items on shelves can appear moved, mannequins seem to change position overnight, and mirrors occasionally reflect figures that are not present. Longtime employees have learned to respect these spaces, avoiding certain aisles late at night, checking corners carefully, and never following unusual sounds alone. Some keep small charms or personal items on counters, believing they anchor them to the present and protect against being pulled into the unknown. Despite the strange occurrences, Marshalls in Oakland continues to operate as a busy retail destination during the day. Customers flood the aisles, unaware of the temporal distortions and vanishing shoppers that have become part of the store's legend. Employees, however, live with the reality that the building is far from ordinary. Shadows move independently, time bends and stretches, and the security footage shows that people can vanish in an instant, leaving only traces of their presence behind. Marshall's in Oakland is not simply a place to shop for discounted goods. It is a labyrinth where the flow of time is unreliable, where shadows linger, and where the very act of browsing can result in hours or lives disappearing. Those who enter may feel a subtle pull, a compulsion to follow a sound, or a curiosity that carries them toward the back aisles. Some return, disoriented and shaken, while others vanish entirely, leaving behind only the cold hum of fluorescent lights and the faint, persistent whisper of time slipping away. The Ralph's grocery store in Long Beach appears as any standard supermarket from the outside, a bright sign, neatly arranged parking lot, and sliding glass doors welcoming shoppers in and out. During the day, it hums with the familiar rhythm of shopping carts, chatter, and the occasional beep of a scanner. But when the sun sets and most customers leave, the store takes on an unsettling, almost otherworldly atmosphere. Employees and a few longtime patrons report strange occurrences, vanishing shoppers, doors and freezers moving on their own, and shadowy figures drifting through the aisles. The supermarket, seemingly ordinary, harbors a legacy of unexplained events that continues to grow over the years. The most alarming phenomena involve disappearances. Customers pushing carts are sometimes observed entering aisles, only to vanish moments later. Security cameras occasionally capture these incidents, though the footage often freezes, glitches, or distorts, just as the person reaches the center of the store. In one case, a middle-aged man, walking through the dairy section with a full cart, suddenly disappeared on camera. His groceries remained scattered across the aisle, as though he had simply vanished into thin air. Employees who witnessed the disappearance describe an eerie silence that fell over the store in that instant, a heavy stillness that lingered long after the event. The produce section, in particular, seems to attract unusual activity. Staff reports seeing shadowy figures gliding past fruit displays late at night, their shapes vaguely humanoid but impossible to approach or identify. Some employees swear that these figures are former shoppers who vanished, wandering the aisles in an endless loop. Others suggest they may be residual echoes of past customers, trapped in a liminal space between the store's reality and another, darker plane. Many employees refuse to work alone after dark, avoiding the back aisles and corners where the shadows seem most concentrated. Even the store's freezers, normally mundane appliances, exhibit disturbing behavior. Doors slam shut on their own, sometimes with a deafening force, even when no one is nearby. Workers restocking frozen goods late at night report hearing the cold hiss of air escaping, followed by the unmistakable sound of freezer doors crashing closed. One employee described placing a carton of ice cream on a shelf, only to be startled by the door slamming shut on her hand. When she checked the security footage, there was no evidence of anyone nearby. The door had moved by itself. Staff have come to expect these inexplicable movements and take precautions when working around the freezers. But the sense of danger remains palpable. Beyond the freezers and shadowy figures, the store exhibits subtle signs of distortion in time and space. Employees occasionally lose track of hours, finding themselves in parts of the store they did not remember entering. Shelves seem to shift slightly, as though the layout of the aisles is mutable, making familiar routes confusing. One night, a stock clerk recounted placing boxes in the cleaning aisle, only to return later and find herself near the bakery with no memory of how she got there. Some staff attribute this to exhaustion, but the phenomenon is reported frequently enough to suggest something more inexplicable is at work. Paranormal investigators have examined the Ralphs in Long Beach multiple times, using thermal cameras, EMF detectors, and audio recorders. Their findings consistently reveal anomalies. Cold spots appear near the freezers and produce section. Electromagnetic readings spike unpredictably. and audio devices occasionally capture faint whispers, calling out names or repeating phrases like "stay" and "don't leave." In several recordings, distorted figures appear in thermal imaging, wandering the store after closing hours. Investigators speculate that the store may be built on a site with residual energy, or that the constant flow of human activity over decades has created a weak point where reality becomes unstable. Shoppers themselves occasionally sense the unusual energy. Many report feeling watched, experiencing sudden chills, or hearing unexplained noises as they walk through certain aisles. One patron recounted feeling a tug on their jacket while examining apples, glancing up to see a shadowy figure at the edge of their vision, which disappeared as soon as they tried to focus on it. Others have reported dizziness, nausea, or a sense of disorientation while pushing their carts through the store. Though most dismiss these sensations as fatigue or imagination, the frequency and consistency of the reports suggest a more sinister reality beneath the fluorescent lights. Employees have developed informal protocols to navigate the strange environment. Late-night shifts are always conducted in pairs or small groups, with workers staying in well-lit areas and avoiding certain corners altogether. Mirrors and reflective surfaces are treated with caution, as they sometimes display forms not present in the physical space. Staff members often carry personal items, believing they help anchor them to reality. Despite these precautions, the sense of unease never fully disappears. The store's energy seems aware of those who linger too long, observing, and sometimes reaching out. The Ralph's grocery store continues to function as a busy market during the day, serving hundreds of customers who remain largely unaware of its eerie reputation. Yet for those who work there, it is a place where ordinary shopping intersects with the unexplained. Shoppers vanish between aisles, freezers slam shut without warning, and shadowy figures drift silently past produce and dairy sections. The store's walls seem to hum with energy, a lingering presence that refuses to be ignored. The supermarket is more than just a place to buy groceries. It is a nexus where past and present collide, where residual energy manifests in whispers, shadows, and vanished shoppers. Those who spend long hours inside often feel that the building itself is alive, watching, and waiting. To outsiders, it is simply a grocery store, but for employees and those sensitive to its strange energy, Ralph's in Long Beach is a place where reality bends, where time can slip away, and where the unseen quietly claims those who wander too far into its aisles. The CVS pharmacy in Ventura looks like any other. Bright white lights, neatly stacked shelves, and the faint scent of antiseptic mixed with cosmetics. During the day, the pharmacy hums with the familiar rhythm of local residents picking up prescriptions, shoppers browsing personal care items, and teenagers roaming the aisles for snacks or beauty products. But after dark, the atmosphere changes. Employees and longtime customers report a creeping sense of unease that seems to settle over the store like a fog. Strange occurrences have become the norm. Shoppers vanish, mirrors behave unnaturally, and shadows drift across the aisles with no source. The Ventura CVS has earned a reputation for being a place where reality itself feels fragile. Most unnerving are the reports of disappearances. Customers entering the store late at night sometimes never return home. Security footage often shows people walking into aisles, especially the cosmetic or personal care sections, but then the video glitches, distorting into static. When the feed resumes, the person is gone. In one chilling instance, a young woman was captured browsing the skincare products. The footage froze as she reached for a bottle, and when it resumed, her shopping basket was abandoned, lying on the floor, and she had vanished entirely. Employees who witnessed the incident recall a sudden silence, a suffocating stillness that seemed to descend over the store, as if the building itself were holding its breath. Mirrors in the cosmetic aisle have become particularly infamous. Shoppers and staff alike report seeing faces reflected in the glass that aren't present in the store. Some claim the reflections move independently of their own actions, shifting, smiling, or even staring from angles that defy physics. One employee recounted walking past a wall of mirrors and seeing a small child's face peering out from the reflection, even though the aisle was empty. She froze in shock, and when she turned to look, nothing was there. Mirrors have also been known to fog over or streak inexplicably, leaving behind what appear to be handprints or faint outlines of figures who were never physically present. Employees describe other strange activity as well. Late-night workers report hearing footsteps echoing down empty aisles, faint whispers calling their names, and the clattering of object spills, makeup, or bottles that fall from shelves without anyone nearby. The pharmacy's automatic doors sometimes slide open and closed on their own, even when the security system indicates no one is entering or exiting. Staff often describe a pressure in the air, a sensation of being watched or followed, particularly near the mirrors and the back of the store where the pharmacy counters are located. Shoppers themselves occasionally sense something is wrong. Many report a sudden chill as they move through certain aisles, a prickling on the back of their necks, or the unsettling impression that someone is standing just out of view. One customer recounted picking up a lipstick and feeling an invisible hand brush against her wrist. She spun around, but the aisle was empty. On other occasions, shoppers have left their carts behind mid-aisle, unnerved by unexplained noises or the feeling of being observed, only to return the following day with no memory of the incident. Paranormal investigators who have examined the CVS pharmacy in Ventura note significant anomalies. Using thermal imaging and EMF detectors, they record sudden temperature drops, energy spikes, and electronic malfunctions concentrated around the cosmetic aisle and the mirrors. Audio recorders capture faint, distorted voices whispering phrases like "look," "stay," or repeating shoppers' names. Investigators also report visual distortions, including flickering shadows and blurry figures moving through empty aisles. Some suggest the store may occupy a space where the boundary between the living world and residual energy has weakened, possibly due to the countless people who have passed through the pharmacy over the years. The disappearances, investigators speculate, may be connected to the reflective surfaces in the store. Mirrors are known in folklore to act as portals or gateways in haunted locations, and the cosmetic aisle seems to amplify this effect. Staff describe moments where the reflections appear more real than the physical space itself, showing movements, faces, and gestures that defy reality. Some believe that shoppers who vanish are drawn into these reflections, trapped in a liminal dimension between the world they know and something entirely other. Even routine work at night can be disorienting. Employees report the feeling of lost time, walking through aisles and realizing minutes or even hours have passed without notice. Shelves appear to shift subtly, making familiar routes confusing. Some staff swear that the pharmacy itself seems aware of their presence, that it reacts to attention or movement, guiding or misdirecting them. For safety, night workers always move in pairs, keep the lights on in the aisles, and avoid lingering near mirrors or display cases for extended periods. Shoppers enter for prescriptions, snacks, and household items, unaware of the subtle, persistent disturbances that occur after hours. Yet for employees, the store is a place where the ordinary and the supernatural coexist. Shadows linger where they shouldn't, mirrors reflect what doesn't exist, and the disappearances of past shoppers serve as a chilling reminder that the store is more than it appears. The Barnes & Noble in Pasadena appears as a haven for book lovers. Warm lighting, polished wooden shelves, and the soft scent of paper and coffee from the attached cafe. By day, it's a lively hub of readers, students, and casual browsers flipping through novels and reference materials. But after the crowds thin and evening falls, the store's upper floors take on an eerie, almost oppressive atmosphere. Employees and patrons report strange experiences, unexplained whispers, and shifting shadows centered primarily in the history section on the upper floor. The store, so welcoming by day, transforms into a labyrinth where the past seems to reach out from the shelves. The upper floor is the source of most reports. Employees have long since learned to avoid it alone after dark. Some claim that after the last customers leave, the air grows heavy and an unnatural chill descends, particularly near the history and rare books sections. Lights sometimes flicker or dim inexplicably, creating shifting pools of shadow. Staff have reported hearing faint murmurs echoing from the shelves, words and phrases, recited in tones that sound both scholarly and sinister. The whispers are fragmented, quoting lines from forgotten manuscripts, obscure passages, or historical texts that have long fallen out of circulation. Most disturbing are the disappearances. Readers who wander into the history section are occasionally never seen again. One employee recounts a man browsing late one evening, flipping through leather-bound tomes on European revolutions. Security footage shows him ascending the stairs to the upper floor, but shortly afterward, the feed glitches, displaying static for nearly 30 seconds. When the video resumes, he is gone. His coat remains draped over a chair, his book lying open on a nearby table, yet no trace of him exists anywhere in the building. The incident left the staff shaken, and they now warn each other about the dangers of wandering too far into the upper floor alone. Other patrons have described an unsettling sense of being watched. Browsers report shadows that seem to move independently among the shelves, lingering at the edge of vision. Some feel compelled to walk deeper into the history section, drawn by the whispering voices, only to find themselves disoriented, unable to locate the stairs or exits. Time appears to distort. A visitor may enter the upper floor intending a brief glance, only to emerge hours later, unsure if minutes or days have passed. Books themselves seem to play a role in the hauntings. Shelves sometimes shift, as if rearranging themselves, and books occasionally fall to the floor without warning. Employees claim that certain volumes, particularly older history texts, emit a faint hum or vibrate slightly when opened. Some readers report feeling a subtle tug, almost magnetic, pulling them toward particular passages or sections of the floor. Others have noticed that mirrors and reflective surfaces capture fleeting images of people or events that are not present. Shadowy figures frozen mid-gesture among stacks of books. The whispers are particularly pronounced in the rare book alcove, a secluded corner where antique tomes and first editions are displayed. Staff working near this area describe hearing their names spoken softly, as if the voices are guiding them, reciting lines from centuries-old diaries, journals, and historical records. Sometimes the words are coherent, other times they are disjointed, a chaotic collage of historical events and personal tragedies. Employees have observed books opening on their own, pages turning rapidly, and shadows moving along shelves as if invisible hands are browsing. Security footage provides chilling evidence. Cameras positioned on the upper floor capture shoppers stepping into aisles, then vanishing abruptly, the video freezing or distorting during the disappearance. On some tapes, shadowy figures can be seen gliding among the shelves, their forms semi-transparent and shifting, almost like echoes of former visitors. In one particularly unsettling recording, a young woman steps into the history section and is drawn toward a shelf of Civil War accounts. As she reaches for a book, a shadowy figure appears behind her, and she disappears mid-step, leaving her bag on the floor. The figure fades moments later, as if the store itself had claimed her. Paranormal investigators who have examined the Pasadena Barnes & Noble report unusual energy readings on the upper floor, EMF spikes, sudden temperature drops, and thermal anomalies coincide with areas of frequent disappearances. Audio recorders capture faint murmurs, often quoting lines from the very books on the shelves. Some researchers theorize that the store functions as a conduit for residual energy, where the knowledge, emotions, and experiences contained within the volumes become manifest, interacting with the living in unpredictable ways. Employees have adapted to the haunting. Night staff avoid the upper floor whenever possible, working in pairs or groups and keeping the lights fully on. They rarely linger near the rare book alcove or the sections with older history texts. Some carry personal objects as anchors, believing that these items help maintain a connection to the living world. Despite these precautions, the upper floor remains dangerous, a place where shadows move independently. Time can slip away, and the voices of the past echo endlessly among the shelves. Shoppers who venture too far alone often leave unnerved, their faces pale, their movements hesitant. Some report hearing whispers of advice or warnings in languages they do not recognize, while others feel an invisible pressure guiding or restraining them. The disappearances, the shifting shelves, and the spectral voices all point to a phenomenon that transcends the ordinary. Haunting tied not only to the building, but to the accumulated history contained within its books. The Pasadena Barnes & Noble is more than a bookstore. By day, it is a center for knowledge and leisure, a haven for readers of all ages. But by night, particularly on the upper floor, it becomes a labyrinth where history comes alive in unsettling ways. Readers vanish, whispers recite forgotten passages, and shadows glide among the shelves. The building itself seems aware, reacting to curiosity and drawing the unwary deeper into its haunted corners. Those who wander too far may find themselves lost in a space where the past refuses to stay buried, leaving only echoes of their presence for others to witness. The Staples store in Modesto presents itself as a typical office supply retailer. Bright fluorescent lights, neatly arranged aisles, stocked with pens, paper, printers, and office furniture. During the day, it bustles with students, small business owners, and local residents grabbing supplies for work or school. Yet behind the ordinary exterior, the store has developed a reputation for inexplicable activity, particularly in the printer aisle. Employees and customers alike have reported strange phenomena: vanishing shoppers, phantom sounds, and eerie feelings that something from the past refuses to rest. Most alarming are the disappearances. Shoppers wandering into the printer aisle are occasionally never seen leaving. Security footage often captures these individuals stepping between the rows of printers and copier displays, only for the video to freeze or distort as they disappear from view. In one unsettling incident, a man was browsing office printers late one evening. The footage shows him examining a high-end model, his hand resting on the keypad. A sudden flicker occurs on the video feed, followed by static. When the footage resumes, he is gone, his cart abandoned, his phone left on a nearby shelf. Employees who witnessed the disappearance recall an unnatural silence, a stillness that seemed to envelop the aisle in a heavy, almost tangible weight. The sounds within the store add another layer of unease. Employees working late at night have consistently reported hearing the clicking and clacking of typewriters, even though none are sold in the store. The sound is rhythmic and deliberate, as if someone is typing urgent messages just beyond perception. Occasionally, the typing is accompanied by faint whispers, like editorial corrections or dictation. Staff often pause in confusion, scanning the area for other people, but the aisles remain empty. Many describe a tingling sensation along their spine, an unshakable sense that they are being observed by someone or something out of sight. Customers have also noted unusual phenomena. Shoppers have reported sudden chills while standing near the printers, hearing distant typing noises or whispered phrases that seem to come from nowhere. Some feel the hair on their arms stand on end or a subtle tug at their clothing, as though invisible hands are guiding or warning them. A few have left mid-shopping trip, claiming a sense of being followed or an overwhelming pressure in the air. Occasionally, they glance back at the printer aisle to see shadowy shapes shifting between the shelves, always just beyond clear view. Paranormal experts who have investigated the Staples in Modesto point to the site's history. According to city records, the location once housed a local newspaper office in the early 20th century. A catastrophic fire reportedly claimed the lives of several employees, many trapped in the upper floors while trying to save equipment and important documents. Investigators theorize that the current store sits atop residual energy from the tragic event. The clicking typewriter sounds, the whispers, and the disappearances may be manifestations of the restless spirits of newspaper workers, still tied to their old workplace and the tasks they never completed. The printer aisle seems to be the epicenter of these occurrences. Employees describe a strange heaviness in the air whenever they pass through it late at night. Shelves sometimes shift slightly, boxes topple without explanation, and small objects, pens, papers, or printer cartridges, move seemingly on their own. One night, a clerk reported placing a stack of forms on a shelf near the printers, only to find them scattered across the floor minutes later. When reviewing security footage, the area appears empty. No customers or staff are present, yet the movement of objects is clearly captured. Time also behaves strangely in the store. Workers have recounted moments when they enter the printer aisle intending to restock supplies for only a few minutes, only to emerge half an hour later with no memory of what transpired in between. Some describe feeling drawn deeper into the aisle by a sense of compulsion, as if an invisible force is urging them to approach a particular printer or shelf. Others hear the faint rustling of paper or the sliding of drawers that no one is operating. Paranormal investigators have documented additional anomalies. Thermal cameras sometimes reveal flickering figures moving among the shelves, shadows that appear human but vanish the instant they are approached. EMF detectors register spikes concentrated near the printers and office supply sections. Audio recordings capture clicks and typing sounds that increase in volume and intensity. When investigators attempt to communicate with any presence, some theorize that the spirits are reenacting their final moments in the newspaper office, repeating habitual tasks in a looping echo of the past. Employees have developed informal methods to cope with the strange energy. Night workers often stay in pairs, avoid lingering in the printer aisle, and keep the overhead lights fully on. Many carry personal items, keys, phones, or small charms as a grounding tool against the disorienting sensations that accompany the hauntings. Despite these precautions, the sensation of being observed or followed persists, and the printer aisle continues to be avoided whenever possible during late-night shifts. The Staples in Modesto continues to operate as a typical office supply store during the day, drawing students, families, and small business owners. But after dark, it is a place where reality feels thin, where vanished shoppers and phantom typing haunt the aisles. The clicking of unseen typewriters, the whispers reciting old editorial notes, and the shadowy figures drifting between printer displays all serve as reminders that the past lingers, and that the tragic newspaper office that once stood on this site has left an indelible mark. Staples in Modesto is more than a retail store. It is a space where time and memory intersect with the supernatural. Shoppers vanish, objects move without explanation, and the sounds of a bygone newsroom echo through the aisles. Those who enter after dark may feel drawn into the lingering presence of spirits still bound to their work, trapped in an endless loop of typing, whispering, and guiding or ensnaring the unwary. It is a store where the ordinary and the inexplicable coexist, and where curiosity can carry a visitor from browsing for office supplies to stepping into the unknown. The PetSmart in Chula Vista appears at first glance as any other pet store. Bright fluorescent lighting, rows of cages filled with small animals, shelves stocked with food, toys, and pet supplies, and the constant chatter of customers and their furry companions. By day, it's a lively, bustling environment, families shopping for dogs, cats, fish, and birds, while employees bustle about feeding animals, cleaning enclosures, and restocking shelves. But after hours, the store takes on an unsettling air. Employees and some local customers have reported bizarre occurrences, pets and their owners disappearing, leashes moving on their own, and an inexplicable smell of burning, furning the Chula Vista PetSmart, a reputation that straddles the line between the ordinary and the supernatural. Most unsettling are the disappearances. Pets and owners have reportedly vanished without warning. A customer might walk in with their dog, stopping to browse the treat aisle, only to disappear moments later. Employees have witnessed such events through the store's security cameras. A dog tied to a leash in front of a display, the owner momentarily distracted by a sale sign, and then a sudden blur on the video before both vanish. The leash remains, coiled and dragging slightly across the floor, but the dog and the person are gone. In one incident, a woman shopping for cat supplies vanished mid. Her shopping basket was left abandoned, and her cat carrier still rested on the floor. No evidence of exit was recorded on the surveillance footage, and no trace was found outside. Late night, employees describe an unnerving sensation of being watched, particularly near the animal enclosures and grooming areas. The store seems to breathe, in a way, pulsing with a strange, almost sentient energy. Shadows stretch unnaturally across the floor, and fleeting shapes dart past cages or display racks. Staff report the feeling of unseen hands tugging at leashes, collars, or even their clothing. One night, a clerk recounts noticing a leash sliding across the tile floor as if guided by an invisible hand, the attached dog nowhere to be found. She froze in shock, only to see the leash stop suddenly, coiling neatly by itself, as though the store had asserted control over it. The smell of burning fur is another common occurrence. Employees often report catching a whiff of smoke or singed hair, even when no pets are in danger and no appliances are active. The odor appears randomly, often accompanying vanishings or strange movements of leashes and cages. Some staff describe the smell as acrid and thick, lingering for minutes, while others claim it seems to pass through walls and around corners as if carried by an unseen presence. Many avoid the grooming section after dark, citing both the smell and an oppressive feeling of dread. Paranormal investigators have visited the Chula Vista PetSmart and noted multiple anomalies. EMF readings spike unpredictably throughout the store, particularly near dog cages, aquariums, and the grooming area. Thermal cameras capture fleeting figures in empty aisles, often moving against the flow of employees. Audio devices record faint growls, barks, or hisses when no animals are present, sometimes accompanied by whispers of words that sound like names or commands. Investigators speculate that the store may be built atop a site where residual energy or traumatic events have imprinted themselves, or that the concentrated presence of pets and humans has created a localized hotspot of paranormal activity. Time itself appears unstable in the store during these events. Employees report moments when tasks that should take minutes stretch into hours. A clerk refilling aquariums may glance away for a moment, only to look back and realize that the room has subtly changed. Cages shifted, displays rearranged, and shadows where none should be. Patrons who have witnessed the phenomena often describe a pull toward the aisles or cages, an irresistible compulsion to move deeper into the store, sometimes never returning from these impulses. Leashes, in particular, seem to act as conduits for the unexplained. Staff recount instances where leashes drag themselves across the floor, tethered to pets that have vanished, or flick about in the air as if animated by unseen forces. Dogs, cats, and even birds have been reported reacting to invisible presences, barking at empty corners, hissing at air, or attempting to flee from unseen figures. Employees often keep extra leashes and collars handy, believing that leaving them on the floor or attached to an object can anchor both animals and humans to reality, though the effectiveness of these measures is uncertain. Security footage offers the clearest but most disturbing evidence. Cameras capture pets wandering down aisles alone, cages swinging open, and leashes extending without any visible handler. On several occasions, footage shows customers disappearing after following the sounds of a dog bark or the sight of a moving leash. When reviewing recordings, analysts find no signs of editing or interference. The anomalies appear genuine, highlighting a consistent pattern of vanishings and strange activity in the store. Despite its eerie reputation, the PetSmart in Chula Vista remains a popular retail destination during the day. Families and pet owners shop for supplies, groom their animals, and enjoy the cheerful environment, unaware of the strange occurrences that intensify after closing. Employees, however, understand that the store is not entirely ordinary. Shadows move, leashes act independently, and pets and humans alike can vanish into thin air. The sense of unseen presence, the smell of burning fur, and the whispers that echo through empty aisles serve as constant reminders that the store may harbor more than just office supplies and pet food. PetSmart in Chula Vista is more than a place to shop for pet supplies. It is a location where ordinary routines intersect with the unexplained. Pets disappear, leashes drag themselves across floors, and the smell of smoke appears with no source. Employees and paranormal investigators alike suggests that some force within the building continues to interact with both humans and animals, tethered to memories, energy, or tragedies long past. Those who linger too long after dark may find themselves caught in its grip, witnessing events that defy explanation and leaving only whispers, shadows, and abandoned leashes behind. The Walgreens in Santa Barbara is a familiar sight to locals, a clean, well-lit pharmacy with wide aisles, neatly stacked shelves, and the gentle hum of fluorescent lights. During the day, it serves the community reliably, providing medications, household essentials, and everyday convenience. But as evening falls and the store empties, the atmosphere shifts. Employees have long whispered of strange occurrences, disappearances, shifting shelves, flickering lights, and an unsettling presence in the back aisles. What appears to be a mundane pharmacy becomes a site of unexplainable phenomena after hours, a place where reality itself seems to fray. Most unsettling are the disappearances. Pharmacists and clerks have reported customers entering the back aisles rows, packed with overstock, seasonal items, or cleaning supplies only to vanish without a trace. Security footage occasionally captures these events, though the recordings often glitch at the moment of the disappearance. In one incident, a man browsing a shelf of allergy medications was seen stepping deeper into the back section. The camera feed flickered violently, the lights in the video oscillating from full brightness to darkness in seconds. When the footage stabilized, the man was gone, leaving his shopping basket abandoned on the floor. Employees who witnessed the event describe an eerie silence that fell over the store, a sudden weight in the air as if the building itself had absorbed him. The back aisles, long and narrow, seemed to act as the epicenter of the activity. Employees often report feeling an invisible pull, a sensation that draws them toward certain shelves or corners, even when they have no intention of walking there. Late-night staff describe sudden chills, whispers that seem to echo from nowhere, and the faint sense of being observed. Occasionally, the fluorescent lights flicker or dim for no apparent reason, usually coinciding with one of these inexplicable disappearances. Some employees swear that the lights pulsed as though reacting to the presence of the unseen, drawing shadows from the corners of the store into the aisles. Shelves themselves behave strangely. Items occasionally shift positions overnight, or stacks of boxes topple for no discernible reason. Clerks who meticulously organize inventory in the evening sometimes return to find the shelves rearranged, products in places they never placed them. Employees have even recounted finding items stacked in patterns, almost like symbols or messages, though any attempts to decipher them yield nothing concrete. The consistent movement of objects, combined with vanishing customers, suggests a force manipulating the physical environment in a subtle but deliberate manner. Whispers and sounds are a recurring theme. Pharmacists report hearing soft, disembodied voices reciting words or phrases, often mimicking their own thoughts or repeating names. These murmurs sometimes appear to originate from the shelves themselves or from the air between aisles. In other cases, a sudden shuffle or clatter echoes through the back aisles, drawing employees toward the sound only to find nothing. Some describe the experience as being followed, with a presence close enough to brush against their peripheral vision, yet never directly seen. Paranormal investigators who have examined the Santa Barbara Walgreens note several anomalies. EMF readings spike unpredictably in the back aisles, and thermal cameras sometimes capture fleeting, indistinct shapes moving between shelves. Audio recorders pick up whispers, footsteps, and faint scraping noises when the store is empty. Investigators speculate that the location may have residual energy from past events, or that the building occupies a liminal space where reality is unstable. The flickering lights, disappearances, and rearranging shelves all point to a phenomenon that interacts with both human and physical elements of the store. Time itself appears distorted in the back aisles. Employees recount moments where they move a few steps into the section to retrieve inventory, only to emerge minutes or even hours later, unsure how long they were gone. Some describe a sensation of being drawn into a deeper space within the store, where the ordinary layout seems to stretch, twist, or loop. This temporal distortion, combined with the spectral activity, creates a disorienting environment that many staff are careful to avoid whenever possible. The disappearances are not limited to patrons. Employees themselves have occasionally reported vanishing briefly, only to reappear disoriented in different parts of the store. One night, a clerk went to retrieve items from a shelf at the far end of the back aisles, and felt herself compelled to follow a whisper calling her name. She later found herself near the front registers, hours having seemingly passed in a matter of minutes. These experiences have created a pervasive sense of caution among staff, particularly during night shifts. Despite these eerie occurrences, the Walgreens continues to function normally during the day. Customers come and go, collecting prescriptions, snacks, and household supplies, completely unaware of the strange and persistent activity that takes place after closing. Employees, however, know that the back aisles hold secrets, vanished patrons, rearranged shelves, and an energy that seems aware of movement and attention. Some have taken precautions, always working in pairs after dark, keeping lights on, and avoiding lingering in the back areas whenever possible. Walgreens in Santa Barbara is more than just a pharmacy. It is a place where ordinary routines intersect with the unexplained. Customers, and sometimes staff, disappear into the back aisles. Shelves shift and rearrange themselves overnight, and lights flicker in synchrony with moments of vanishing. Whispers echo through empty corridors. Time distorts, and the building itself seems to react to those who enter. The store is a nexus of ordinary commerce and subtle supernatural presence, a space where curiosity can carry a visitor into something far beyond the mundane, leaving only silence, shadows, and rearranged shelves behind. The TJ Maxx in Stockton is a bustling retail hub by day, filled with shoppers hunting for deals on clothing, shoes, and home goods. Bright fluorescent lights illuminate the aisles, and the store's constant hum is punctuated by the chatter of customers, the clatter of shopping carts, and the soft background music that drifts from the speakers. But after hours, the atmosphere shifts. Employees and some customers report unnerving occurrences in the fitting room area, people disappearing, strange reflections in mirrors, and an overwhelming sense that the space itself is alive and unpredictable. The Stockton TJ Maxx has gained a reputation for being more than just a store. It has become a place where reality itself can feel fragile. The most alarming reports involve the fitting rooms. Several shoppers have gone missing after entering with armfuls of clothing. Security footage captures them walking into the rows of curtained stalls, but shortly afterward, the video glitches or distorts. When it stabilizes, the person is gone, leaving behind abandoned clothing or personal belongings. In one chilling instance, a young man carrying 3 pairs of jeans and a shirt entered a fitting room late one evening. The footage froze for several moments, and when it resumed, the fitting room curtain was empty. His items lay scattered on the floor, but he was nowhere to be seen. Employees who responded to the scene recall an unsettling stillness, a silence that seemed to absorb every sound in the vicinity. Mirrors in the fitting rooms are often at the center of these strange occurrences. Shoppers and staff have reported seeing reflections that do not match reality. Instead of showing the person standing in front of them, the mirror sometimes depicts a different space, entirely a store that doesn't exist, with shelves stocked with unfamiliar items, walls painted in strange colors, and shadowy figures moving in the background. Some employees claim that these alternate reflections seem to respond to their movements independently, shifting, gesturing, or even appearing to beckon. A few customers have described feeling compelled to step closer to the mirrors, as if drawn into the alternate space, only to retreat moments later, unnerved and disoriented. Late-night staff have described strange sounds and sensations in the fitting room area. Footsteps echo down the narrow aisles between mirrors and curtain stalls. Even when no other employees or customers are present, the soft rustling of clothing and the quiet tap of unseen hands against metal racks are common. Some staff report sudden drafts of cold air sweeping through the fitting rooms, brushing against their skin and causing hairs to stand on end. Occasionally, whispers are heard, almost like conversations carried from another time or place, repeating phrases such as, "Try this on," or "Look behind you," though no one is visible. Time itself seems to behave strangely around the fitting rooms. Employees recount instances where they step into the area for a quick check and emerge disoriented, unsure how long they've been inside. In some cases, hours appear to have passed within moments. Shoppers who have briefly entered the fitting room area sometimes describe losing track of time, finding that their watches or phones display different hours than expected. This temporal distortion contributes to the sense that the fitting rooms are a space apart from the ordinary flow of the store. The disappearing shoppers are not limited to a particular demographic. Reports include men and women of various ages, some carrying items to try on, others moving alone through the rows of mirrors. In each case, the vanishings are accompanied by subtle, unexplained phenomena: a flickering of lights, a sudden drop in temperature. Security footage occasionally captures shadowy figures lingering near the entrances to fitting rooms, but when investigated, these figures leave no trace, appearing to dissolve into the background. Paranormal investigators who have examined the Stockton TJ Maxx note unusual energy concentrations around the fitting rooms. EMF readings spike unpredictably. Thermal cameras capture fleeting, indistinct shapes, and audio devices record soft whispers and rustling sounds in otherwise empty areas. Investigators speculate that the fitting rooms may act as a portal or liminal space, drawing people and objects into an alternate dimension or trapping residual energy. The mirrors, in particular, appear to act as thresholds, reflecting a reality that exists alongside, but separate from, the ordinary store. Staff have adapted to these occurrences with caution. Night employees often move in pairs, avoid lingering in the fitting room area, and keep the overhead lights fully on. Many carry personal items, believing that holding something familiar can help maintain their connection to the real world. Despite these precautions, the sense of unease remains, and the fitting rooms continue to be a source of fear and fascination. During the day, TJ Maxx operates as expected. Shoppers browse, try on clothes, and leave without incident. Yet for those who work after dark or enter the fitting rooms, the store becomes a place where ordinary shopping can quickly give way to the inexplicable. Vanishing shoppers, shifting mirrors, and the occasional glimpse of a different, impossible store combine to create an atmosphere that defies reason. The TJ Maxx in Stockton is more than a retail store. It is a place where the ordinary and the supernatural intersect. Fitting rooms swallow people whole, mirrors show impossible realities, and shadows move just beyond the edge of perception. Employees and visitors alike report disappearing patrons, distorted time, and whispered phrases echoing from unseen sources. Those who linger too long or step too deeply into the rows of mirrors and curtain stalls may find themselves caught in a space where reality bends, leaving only abandoned clothing and echoes behind. The Dollar Tree in Reading is known for its bargain prices and endless aisles of discounted goods, from household essentials to party supplies. By day, it's a hub for families, students, and thrifty shoppers hunting for deals. But behind its unassuming facade, the store has developed a reputation that stretches far beyond cheap prices. Employees and customers alike report unsettling occurrences. Shoppers vanish without explanation. Candles flicker despite having no flame, and the toy section is often filled with eerie, childlike humming that has no source. The seasonal aisle is the most notorious area of the store. Staff have reported several incidents of shoppers disappearing while browsing for holiday decorations, party supplies, or seasonal knickknacks. Security footage occasionally shows a person entering the aisle with a cart or basket full of items, only to vanish moments later. The feed often glitches at the moment of disappearance, lights flickering, shadows stretching unnaturally, and the image momentarily freezing. When the video resumes, the aisle is empty. Employees who witness these vanishings firsthand describe a sudden stillness that envelops the area, a weight in the air that makes the hair on their arms stand on end. Candles in the seasonal aisle often behave strangely. Battery-operated or decorative candles sometimes flicker without any source of power being tampered with. In some instances, traditional candles appear to move, waver, or glow, despite having no flame. Staff claim that the flickering often coincides with disappearances, adding an ominous quality to the already unsettling environment. On more than one occasion, an employee reached for a candle display to straighten it, only to feel a sudden cold draft sweep past them, as if invisible hands were passing by. The toy section is another hotspot for paranormal activity. After the store closes, employees report hearing childlike humming or soft giggling, echoing through aisles of dolls, action figures, and board games. The sounds are disconcerting because they seem detached from any visible source. Some workers describe seeing toys shift slightly on shelves, as though being played with by unseen hands. And occasionally, the humming will stop abruptly when approached, creating an unnerving silence. The effect is both disorienting and frightening, leaving staff hesitant to linger in the area alone. Time behaves strangely in the store. Employees recount moments where they step into the seasonal aisle intending a brief restocking task, only to emerge feeling disoriented and unsure how much time has passed. Some shoppers report similar experiences, finding that what should have been a 10-minute browsing session stretches into an hour or more without their awareness. This distortion seems localized, primarily affecting areas with the most reported paranormal activity, the seasonal aisle, toy section, and sometimes near displays of candles and small decorative items. The disappearances are not selective. People of all ages have vanished, from teenagers browsing party favors to adults shopping for household goods. In each case, items they carried or baskets they pushed are often left behind, abandoned in mid-aisle. Security cameras capture the moments before disappearance with eerie precision. The person pauses, sometimes as if noticing something off-camera, and then abruptly disappears, leaving only the empty aisle behind. On reviewing these recordings, staff have noted that shadows often stretch or bend in impossible ways just before the vanishings occur. Paranormal investigators who have examined the Reading Dollar Tree report unusual energy concentrations, particularly in the seasonal and toy aisles. EMF detectors spike unpredictably. Thermal cameras capture vague, shifting shapes among shelves, and audio devices pick up the faint sound of giggling, humming, or whispered phrases when no one else is present. Investigators speculate that the building may sit atop residual energy from past events or tragedies, though the precise cause remains unknown. Whatever the origin, the evidence suggests a persistent and active presence that interacts with both the physical and human elements of the store. Employees have learned to take precautions. Night staff often work in pairs, avoid the most active areas whenever possible, and keep overhead lights fully on. Some carry personal items, believing that holding familiar objects can help maintain a connection to reality amid the strange phenomena. Despite these measures, the feeling of being watched or followed remains, particularly in the seasonal aisle, where most disappearances occur. Some staff have even reported feeling invisible pressure, a gentle tug that guides them toward a display or aisle, similar to what has been described by vanished shoppers. The Dollar Tree in Reading operates normally during the day. Families, bargain hunters, and local residents go about their business, oblivious to the strange events that intensify after dark. But for those working late or wandering into the store's most affected aisles, the environment becomes unnerving, almost alive. Shoppers can vanish, shelves can shift, candles flicker without flame, and toys move or emit sounds from nowhere. The combination of vanishing patrons, distorted time, and childlike sounds creates an atmosphere that is difficult to ignore. The seasonal aisle, toy section, and candle displays serve as epicenters for phenomena that defy explanation. People disappear, shadows behave unnaturally, and invisible hands seem to manipulate the environment. Those who venture too far after hours may find themselves caught in the strange, eerie energy that permeates the building, leaving only empty aisles, flickering candles, and the echo of childlike humming as evidence of what transpired. The store stands as a reminder that even the most commonplace locations can hide secrets darker than anyone might imagine. And there you have it, my friends. 30 of the most terrifying haunted retail stores in California, places where shopping trips turned into ghost stories, and where some customers never made it back home. The next time you step into a store for something as simple as groceries or a new pair of shoes, look closely at the mirrors. Listen for the voices calling your name, and pay attention to the shadows between the aisles, because you never know if the store you're standing in has its own list of missing shoppers waiting to add you to it. Thank you for wandering these haunted aisles with me tonight. If you enjoyed this chilling journey, be sure to like, share, and subscribe, because there are always more dark secrets waiting in the shadows. Until next time, stay safe, and remember, the scariest places are often the ones hiding in plain sight.